What is up, everyone? Welcome to another AoS Trash Panda episode with me. I'm Carson with my buddy Rob here. Did I get something wrong already?
I think so.
Okay. We'll worry about it later. Welcome to... I'm the ogre player, so I'm Carson.
No, I
No.
think you're wrong again. Yeah.
Oh, you've got the
You
meat.
never played ogres once.
Oh, jeez. I thought about it. I really did. I almost got into ogres, but I was going to be like everyone else would later be, and just I wanted to do all monster trucks. I actually wanted to get them.
Popular thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite part of the book. I really like the beasts. I'm not into the ogres themselves so much, and that was what kind of stopped me. Ultimately, was I'm not into like ogres, and it's an army of ogres, so that's yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I started out the same way. In fact, the first box that I got that many people got that kind of got them into ogres was the Beast Claw Raiders Start Collecting.
Totally.
Which is just a Stonehorn and 4 Mornfang, which is like the best possible deal ever. I think you could buy like 3 of those, and that was a full 2K point army at one point, which is fantastic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I'm sure there's still some cooking around somewhere. And speaking of ogres,
yes,
and also meat. I can hear the meat dimension rumbling behind me.
It's
and
gurgling.
It's blessing me with something today. Let's see what this is. It's a nice bottle of Riesling. Wow. Thank you, meat dimension.
I did not expect that.
Man. I thought it was gonna be beer again. I was getting kind of bored.
Yeah, well.
Hold on, there's one more thing.
Oh.
It's a glass for me to drink my Riesling with. Thank you, meat dimension. Okay, let's open this up.
That looks so good. It's so amazing. Every week I
see if I can pour it from the meat dimension into the bottle. There we go.
Oh, it's phasing in and out of reality.
All right, let's taste this.
Okay.
Swirl it around a little bit. Try not to spill it all over myself.
Quantum dimensional Riesling.
That's very sweet. Thank you, meat dimension. Thank you. Thanks.
Yo, Keith, what's up, man? Are you glad you're here? As usual, we like to start this podcast as if it were a dumpster that was on fire. 100% ratio, I think. Hey. So, did you get a chance to see this week's rumor engine, Mr. Carson?
I did. And I think this reinforces what I was talking about last week, which is that this is crude. It's definitely 40k, of course. But if you look at the existing Kroot guns, they kind of have that like elongated, like double hole at the front too. And then this one also has like little minor spikes coming out the bottom.
Right.
And the existing Kroot ones have like massive spikes coming out. So I think this is like a Kroot sniper or something to do with Kroot. And just because we saw those little claws and stuff on the skull, I think that's like further.
That's a great call, actually. Yeah, I mean, I saw someone say that they thought this was a Kroot thing. I had no idea how they could figure that out or tell, but I'm not a Kroot expert, and I'm far from a 40k expert either. Yeah, that's kind of cool. That would be cool, to just guess it like that. It would make sense because, like, I don't know when Tau are coming, but they did say that all the armies in 40k are going to get like a decent refresh, some kind of like release. So if that's the case, I think the only thing Tau really need is Kroot, right? So,
yep,
that'd be cool. Keith says he mostly enjoys the Elder Scrolls camera. I enjoy that too, Keith. I enjoy that too. I don't know how it works, but I'm mesmerized by it. I need to get an Elder Scrolls camera. This is bullcrap.
Exactly. And then when I come up, it's just like my entire face. Is like, hello!
Oh my god. As long as it doesn't auto turn up your camera for some random reason.
Greetings from the meat dimension.
Yeah. I used to be a soldier in the war, and then I
the
fell.
Meat Wars.
Yeah. Okay. So then we also have, You know what? There's actually a couple of things that I'm super excited to talk about. This Kroot gun was by far the least of them. This is something I couldn't wait to talk about. Um, I looked at the Bahamut. Thanks for joining us. I looked at this sort of their post on Facebook, and I was like, what kind of dumpster fire is this going to be? And people were way nicer than I thought they were going to be. I'll just say that first. Like, everyone was making fun of it, how it's like by far an inferior, system than they already have. Like, I know that there's silicone and blah, 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 right? But like, the general thing was like, join us in the future with magnets and other things like that. But yeah, was it you who posted this morning?
It was, yeah.
Yeah, in our private thing.
Say what you want about this, but put your models in it exactly like you see in the picture.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of a sprinkling of simple green on top of them, and then close the case up, shake it up real good, and this is going to be the best damn model paint stripper you ever had. Okay?
That's true. Like,
the best, bar none.
The best. Yeah. It looks like a great way of scraping your models up, to be honest. Yeah. Silicone. I mean, maybe it's like way softer than it looks, because it does say silicone.
That's true, but usually like any contact or abrasion is really bad.
It's not
especially
good.
if it's repeated. Like, even
That's
with
true.
foam, you can rub the paint off your models as time goes on, even with the clear coat.
That's true. I think, though, like, silicone is softer than foam, even.
Yes.
Like, in terms of, like, the, how do you say that? Like, the friction that would be caused by rubbing, right?
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll see. But I don't know. Yeah, like, Keith says it looks expensive and weird. I mean, the weird part is one thing. Like here's something that this is funny. I'm not proud that I bought this, but it was a good investment, and that's what they call the doorstop, right? Because like I was using for my like my bottles, my GW stuff, right? I was putting like a 50 millimeter base and using blue tack, but it wasn't like, this is way better and it's permanent. Like, I just stick it in here and then it never tips over. And I can put like 3 of them in there and just rotate them. And it was like $10. And I don't even think they sell them anymore. And like a lot of people said, well, you're just buying a fix to a problem that GW created and paying them money for it. But like, okay, but like I was losing more money by just spilling my paint. Like, each time you spill your paint completely, you're losing like $9, right? So for an extra dollar, that never happened again. Yeah. Anyway, so this model case, though, it looks hilarious and kind of stupid, and I don't think it's going to work, but it might. It might work really well. We'll have to see.
Yeah. I would love to bite my tongue about this, but or I guess put my foot in my mouth. What is the saying when you're wrong and blah 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 blah? I'd love to be wrong about this, is what I'm trying to say, but
for sure,
it looks very silly.
It's, I just got a case not that long ago, so it's a magnetic case. It's that Italian one, Giacoli or whatever it's called, and it comes with like cookie sheets that you could just literally adjust on the fly. But I think magnets are still going to be the best thing, but this, if it works, will be a better solution for people like traveling to tournaments. Because magnets, like, I love them, but I would never want to like put them in like the, what do you call it? The one you give to the people, not carry on. Check-in luggage. Yeah, exactly. I would never check in like my magnetic case.
No, never, because they're just gonna like whip it 10 feet, and doesn't matter how strong those magnets are. They're gonna come off.
Dude, I've literally seen a video of these two guys like on the security cam for an airport in the States. I can't remember which airport it was, and they were doing like WrestleMania, like body slams and like jumping on them with their elbows, and like it looked like a lot of fun and everything. But I was just like, oh my god, like, no wonder my stuff always gets trashed, you know.
It's actually a real concern because I want to bring a display board to LVO,
Right.
and I have to fly there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that I can, put my models in like a smaller Magna rack or something like that, and then just bring them as the carry-on. But there's no way I'd be able to fit a display board and carry-on as well.
For sure, you won't be able to. Yeah.
So either I just don't bring it, or risk it just being absolutely trashed. And I'm kind of worried about the second option.
It's true. Ladivicus says it's so bad, like a torture device for small units, and really just Marines and Stormcast will fit. Try putting some sort of elf in that thing. Yeah, exactly. Like Deepkin? No freaking way, dude. Or Sylvaneth? Like, but Rob, how will you be cool on social media if you don't spill your paints and post pictures? I never got that thing. Like, the first time it happened to me, after I'd seen that many posts, I sent it to my friends. I was like, it finally happened to me, guys. Like, shucks. You know what I mean? But like, yeah. But then again, like, if you go to the Facebook groups, it's like, how often are people going to ask spears or swords and then enter whatever army here? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. People don't pay attention to what other people post. Are you saying that airport baggage handlers treat your luggage like a caver toss? Yeah. That would be preferable, to be honest, because then you wouldn't be slamming your body down on top of that thing. Like if they were just flipping it up over end, I'd kind of get that. Buy an item at the bookstore Terminator and use that. Buy an item at the bookstore Terminator. I don't think I understand.
What that means.
Yes, that could be an autocorrect. I could go in there with like some Ray-Bans and buy something and be like, I'll be back, and
then you won't because you're leaving on a plane.
That's true. But it'll make them worried that I'll come back with like, a shotgun or something, maybe.
Yep.
They might be nice to me. Go buy books from
security.
Yeah, I would buy books from a shop named Terminator. I'd buy books from, all sorts of places. Whatever it takes, man. Okay, so that was like, honestly, I couldn't wait to just like, my first reaction was the same as Alex's. Like, this isn't real, is it? Like, this can't be real. Right? But once I saw it was silicone, it's better. You know what I mean? But we'll see. Time will tell. And then, did you see this new terrain kit thing?
The Seraphon one?
Yeah.
It looks pretty cool.
The meat tree Seraphon one. Like, I love that big arch thing. Whew. I need to get it at some point. I might wait a little bit.
I wonder, is it like it's like a big arch and then the whole ground is also like part of it too?
It looks like it's attached, yeah. Most of them are.
I wonder how you would rule that. I mean, I guess this is Warcry terrain, so it just has to be like levels, and it's a lot more dynamic in Warcry, but in AoS it might be a little tough.
It might be a little tough to, what do you mean, like rule?
So like if you have this like tall but completely see-through thing that like lines the ground like that, is it just, would you just treat it as regular terrain where you can like pass over the small bits and then that's it, or?
Yeah, I mean, for a tournament setting, it's not great, but for like a home thing where you can just kind of talk about the rules, I think it's fine. Like, I would probably say like infantry could get cover if they're standing directly behind it, just because it's kind of coming up to their waist kind of deal. But I don't know. I guess it depends on the personal. Oh, the terminal. Won't make you check an item with a terminal shop bag. Oh, interesting. Rob
spends. I can fit a display board in a terminal shop bag, though.
Latificus, have you been watching me? Like, I 100% have done that. I actually just, like, there was someone like reading a book near where I take our dog for a walk, And I was like, what are you reading? You know, just like, I like books. Pretty sure that tree has a mouth. Oh, maybe. Yeah, the bottom? Yeah, that's creepy, and I love it. My thing for this one, though, is like, if you see the one piece of terrain is on a level below, and it's kind of connecting up to that other piece, I wonder if it'll... I bet it'll still work even if it's on the same level, but it won't look as cool, I think, for sure. So it's something to think about. But yeah, anyway, I really like it. I think it's cool. I like that they're doing sort of thematic terrain. I really hope that the terrain that they make for 4th edition is very Skaven. That would be cool, and I will buy all of it. All of it. And I will paint it eventually, at some point. Like your Maw terrain thing, like, my God, that thing's so cool.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to make a whole new display board based around the Maw pit, I think.
Hell yeah. Oh, that'd be so cool. Like cracks going... Okay, we'll talk about it later. I don't want to... cool. And then the last piece of like general info, I guess, was there was some stats that came out. Whoops. I didn't... No, it's pretty much in there, but I'll move it over slightly. There we go. Boop.
So these are the faction win rates.
Yes.
Basically just up to the new battle scroll.
Indeed. I don't know if you guys saw this. Carson was kind enough to post it in our group sort of chat thing. And it's very interesting. So, and I believe I have this correct. The bigger the light green section is, that means there's more variance because not that many people are playing it, right?
Yes, that's the margin of error. Basically.
Margin of error, exactly, yeah.
And also credit to Warhammer for actually compiling all of these stats. If you're interested in AoS stats, go check out Warhammer. They do like posts about all of the top 3 lists and a bunch of tournaments and stuff like that. Just wanted to shout them out because this is not... We didn't make this graphic, so...
That's true, yeah. I don't make things like that. Yeah, so... What did you think about this? Okay, first of all, actually, we should point out that it is before the battle scroll thing. So,
yeah. So there's a few key things like Soulblight didn't get their nerf, Ossiarch didn't get their nerf.
As of this info.
As of this, yeah. I suspect there's a couple things in there that might have been affected by the whole teleport and Blizzard thing. I know that Big Wa has a teleport of some kind, so they could have teleported someone into Blizzard. Soulblight does that too with Legion of Night, where you can just like, with a heroic action, teleport someone in and they can use Blizzard. And of course there's points changes too, so certainly we're going to see differences in this. I have a feeling that Soulblight is probably going to move more towards like 55 kind of range. I think they're still going to be quite good actually.
Really? Like, they took a lot of nerfs. Like...
They did take a lot of nerfs, but I still think in the right hands, if someone wants to zombie spam, it's still going to be at least a little bit above 50. I don't think it's going to go to sub 50 territory.
That's interesting. I don't think they're going to go sub 50, but I don't think they're going to stay near 55 personally. But I could be wrong. Like, we'll have to see. I think because it's not just the really good players that are. In fact, I feel like it might actually go below 50 because like the really serious hardcore players might just be like, oh, they're not that competitive anymore. I'm going to move to Army X. And then all that will be left are the people who just like Soulblight Gravelords and are, filthy casuals or whatnot. So
it's tough to say. I feel like when Cities of Sigmar comes out, assuming they don't get a massive FAQ, all of these like very like bandwagon hopper, like competitive players that do switch armies all the time just to be the most competitive they can be are probably going to switch to that because there's a lot of crazy combos in there right now.
There are. And
so, but the thing is, like, that's not legal at most tournaments. So
it's true.
We're not going to see that until at least when the book officially comes out, probably in November.
Right.
And hopefully there's going to be an FAQ that accompanies it. So
that, you think so? Like, or actually, obviously I hope so too, because like we have like LP, who's our local. He was on the Cities of Sigmar review show. He went 4-1 at a tournament with Cities of Sigmar in the old book, so that's his favorite army. It's like the only army he plays, and he is quite good with them. And he was just kind of saying, "This is too much. Like it's going to get nerfed. We just don't know how and by how much." So he's just kind of not even leaning into any of that stuff that might get nerfed beyond recognition. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I hope they don't go overboard, because like I don't want people who are excited about playing the army to kind of get disheartened either. But it seems to need something. But I'm not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. And then as far as the other armies go, I think Ossiarch is probably only going to be bumped down maybe a couple percent.
Yeah.
I'd predict Ossiarch probably bumps down to like 57 or 56, but I would be surprised if it was lower than that. Just because coming from the recent tournament, which did have the new battle scroll in effect, Ossiarch still slapped people pretty hard, myself included. And they got some pretty substantial buffs for Mortek Guard as well, and I think that is still yet to be determined
Right.
as to whether that's going to be like very viable.
They might go up.
They might. Yeah, you could see Soulblight players that were previously relying on like, the extra 300 points almost that they had in their lists to swap over to Ossiarch just because they didn't get hit quite as hard.
But they also got a buff. Like they kind of almost went laterally in a way. Like
Yeah.
the thing that was just straight up broken that everyone was using before, but like Mortek Guard going down. Mortek Guard are freaking amazing, right? And you can
It's not
still
in like a small amount either. They went down probably 15%, I think, because they were 150 points and they went down 20% or 20 points.
jeez.
So
Yeah, it's like yeah. About
it's more
15.
than a 10% points
Yeah.
buff.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Oh, camera. Okay.
It's got a mind of its own.
Yeah.
Well, and like because of that, and because of the Soulblight players, like the Soulblight got nerfed enough that maybe, because I think Soulblight was a bit of a tough matchup for OBR. Like I think they were kind of giving them trouble. So if that's the case, it's possible that RCArch will just be like, "What else you got? Like who's going to stop me now?" You know, not Seraphon. But anyway, yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Big Wah coming in at 55%. That's interesting.
That's an odd one, but you can also see the sample size for each of these. So both Soulblight and Ossiarch had a sample size of over 100. In fact, I think if I'm reading that correctly, Ossiarch had 211 samples. Soulblight had 144 samples. Big Wah's only 74.
Right.
Compared
But
to that.
that's interesting.
So that basically says that like fewer people are taking this, but are doing better with it. And that
True.
tends to be the case, I think, when you have an army that's like, not highly represented, but the people that do play really know what they're doing.
Right.
I think Daughters of Cain is another example of that, where like
Perfect example. Totally.
there are players that really see something in that book, and rightfully so. They have a lot of like good things about it, and but they aren't particularly popular with like the Timmies of the game,
Nope.
for instance.
Nope. They're not good for new players. They're not popular with new players. And when they are, they tend, it's regardless of that, putting that aside, they're also an expensive army to get into.
Yep.
So yeah. And there's a lot of painting work, like, whether you're painting Mountains of Sisters or whatever, like all that flesh and stuff, like it's not for the faint of heart.
Big Wah is also a really tough thing for a new player to deal with, because it's an Alpha Strike army, right?
That's true.
You're typically going to see stuff that can get across the board immediately and hit you really, really, really hard. And if you don't have like the proper screening for that, or you haven't like deployed correctly, it can be over turn one.
Yep.
So that can kind of get you to like the sort of 3-2, 4-1 territory, I think, depending
Right.
on like who you get matched up against. And then once those players are getting towards like top tables and they're familiar with Big Wah, then they start to like bounce back a little bit, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I really found that was the case for Ignith in like first edition. It was just like the ultimate noob stomper because it was so fast and at the time it was very killy. And so it was just like if you didn't position correctly, if you didn't have screens like you said, like there's so many different things, um, it felt overwhelming, I'm sure, for a lot of new players. But yeah, you gotta use screens, man. Everyone has to learn to use screens.
Yep.
And then you've got Heat Knights sitting around there, the same as was it Blades? Yeah, Korn 53, KO 52, Zeech 52, and Seraphon 52.
Seraphon's 50.
Oh, is
Oh
it?
no, it is 52. Never
Yeah,
mind.
okay,
Sorry.
that's what I thought. I was looking at it before because it was funny. I saw a chat today, or yeah, I think it was today, and people were talking about how they were wondering about like the competitive viability of Seraphon, and and I remember one person said that Coalesced are A+ tier. I know. And then Starborn are probably the best army in the game. And then I remember I was thinking about this graph and going, I don't think so. But like, it's one of those things. I could actually see Seraphon being another example though of like a noob crusher for sure. But I also think that Seraphon, like, what's the rate on this? 190. So you do have, to be fair, you do have a lot of probably new people or casual people playing the game just because it's dinosaurs. Like dinosaurs are always just going to be a popular army to play, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think that's sort of, and just got a range refresh too. Like there's probably a lot of people just joining the game for dinosaurs, and God bless them because I am right there with them. Like if they had existed when I first got into Warhammer Fantasy, they would have been my first army for sure, Lizardmen. But the other armies are not rocking nearly as high. Actually, Blades of Corn, 176. I missed that.
There's a lot of people playing Korn. And Korn is an interesting one because we've talked about this before when we had Matthias on to talk about Korn. It's a very high skill floor to play Korn correctly because it's like a surprisingly techy army. And I think Korn probably falls into that category if like someone wants to buy an army for the first time and they're like, oh, I want to go with the dudes that are angry at everything and hit stuff. Because that sounds like kind of what Iron Jaws plays as. But it's nothing like that whatsoever. So I could see a lot of players who want that experience going to tournaments and not playing the same like techie shenanigans that someone like Matthias would play, not doing quite as well.
That's a great point, actually. Yeah, because like when we know how good they can be when played by someone like Matthias, like they can be overwhelmingly, devastatingly amazing. But yeah, I think that's a good point. And Blades of Corn are not my thing. Like I'm not into their looks or anything about them, their lore or whatever, right? And so I think they're cool. I'm not bagging on them, obviously, but like my point is just that I think I always underestimate how popular they are. You know, I think they're actually like a really popular army that get a lot of people into AoS. You know,
they also have a lot of shared models with 40k, which probably factors in it too.
All the demons, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. But
well,
then, like,
and all the demons are good units as well. Like
that's true.
You know, the Bloodthirster is a key unit.
Bloodletters
are key units. Yeah. The Herald, like Skullmaster, Bloodmaster, key units. Like,
right.
Yeah.
And the demons on Juggernauts, do those exist in the? Probably not. Eh?
Blood Crushers.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they exist in 40k, but you also don't see them as much.
That's true.
On tabletop.
Yeah, that's true. Although even when they came out, like a lot of people were like, those things are OP as hell and 2-up save this but yeah, you never know. But like the other thing too is like Zeech is only 79, but then it's like the book isn't as new as Korn, so maybe Korn is like an existing thing of people liking the aesthetic, you know, the mix of being able to use stuff in 40k and also just them being a newer book and fairly strong with really interesting rules. Like, I love Zeech. Of the 4 like classic Pantheon Chaos gods, Zeech is my favorite by far, but I've played them a few times and they're not that fun to play as they sit right now for me. They've got some really cool mechanics, but it's really, everything just feels like what's the word? Like, it's kind of a pain in the ass, for lack of a better, you know what I mean? It's nothing simple. It's all like overly complicated, and unless you're like really 40 chessing it and super experienced with the army, yeah, you just get your butt kicked.
Yeah.
But I really love Lords of Change, and I love rolling 2 dice and then matching the lower one to the higher one. That's like, oh, I love it so much. Anyway, on that weird note, and then Cruel Boys finally at a 50% win rate. What up, y'all? We got there eventually. God dang.
They kind of won the race to the bottom, I think.
Yep, they really did. How do you, like, they were sitting at the bottom for so long. Like,
yeah, I think probably what happened is that somewhere along the way, their points actually matched what the army does. And there's still some things that don't really match up, like some war schools are just straight up bad.
yep.
Like the standard Cruel Boys list that you see, which is like 2 packs of 6 Bolt Boys and maybe Gobsprack and just some screens in front of them with like, what's it called? Those big like walking, I can't remember what they're called.
The crocodile guys?
The dudes that make it so that when you, I think it's
The Sludge
basically
Raker
they give
Beast?
extra mortal wounds in like a radius.
Yeah. The Sludge Raker Beast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that list is actually pretty scary. Like, turns out, like, it's
Yep.
and there's not a lot of stuff that can deal with it super well.
Right.
And it's surprisingly actually not bad against Ossiarch, which tends to have low model count, very high save.
That's true.
Yeah, especially now that they can't heal super well.
That's true. Yeah, it's a mixture of points. Like, no battle tactics, and now they just got a new one that's really easy to do. There's that. There's like when the book came out, the Hobgrot Slittas were never battle line, and now they can be if you for every Gutripa's unit. They've changed all the subfaction abilities or whatever. Like like that book is useless now to a Cruel Boys player. Like, you might as well not even own it. Cruel Boys got off their pity points. Yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely. Oh, you sold your Corn Army? I love the Scarbrand and Skulltaker models. Bought the rest to make a legal army. Got over it because it felt too techy and not enough punching things. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I just played my first game of 40k not that long ago, and Tyranids are like kind of techy now, and they're not Timmy anymore either. And I was just like, ugh, this feels terrible. Like, that's all I want to do is eat things and, adapt and do all those kinds of things. Yeah, it's true what Keith said. Elves are always a bit niche. They seem to love them or hate them thing going on. Rarely meet people in the middle ground. Yeah, they don't seem to be as like generally popular. I think the closest one for that, Keith, is Sylvaneth, if you count them. I still think of them as like an elfy kind of army. But I could see a lot of people not thinking that way, right on. Anyway, but Cruel Boys also should be mentioned. They only have Cruel Boys are 43 for their sample rate. That's really low, right?
Yeah, so it's clear that a couple experienced players are taking this because their margin of error is a little high as well. You can see the green bar is a little higher than most.
Yeah,
maybe slightly, I guess. So it's not that bad,
but like,
speaking of high margin of error,
yeah.
Bone Splitters next to them. It's like a margin of error width of like 10% or something crazy. So
yeah, dude,
something's
like
happening there.
Only 11 people playing them in a tournament is pretty nuts.
So it's not really a reliable data point, I think.
I feel like they're gonna just eliminate Bone Splitters, like that's that. And so Cities of Sigmar, that's like a whole other thing. They're getting a huge refresh, and their book is like in this weird limbo state where it just feels bad to play them. So like, I don't want to count them, right? But like, Bone Splitters is even lower than that, and they're a legitimate normal book. And then the only other thing I can think of that feels like an unpopular army to me in my head is Fire Slayers, and they're 41, so they're almost quadruple the amount of people playing that, right? And I don't think Fire Slayers are going anywhere. But Bone Splitters, though, like, I don't know, man. Like, if you want to just play orcs, then just play Iron Jaws. Like, if you want to just play, like, smash 'em, bash 'em orcs, I don't know. I can see people being into naked orcs, but
Yep.
I don't know. They just don't feel like they have their own flavor, their own proper flavor to me. But yeah. Anyway, and then we've got Flesh Eater Courts, 49%. That's interesting because they were doing so well not that long ago. I don't remember. Did they get like a nerf, or did stuff just happen?
I don't recall, but to be honest, I've literally never played against Flesh Eater Courts before, so I have no insight here.
That's fair. That's fair. Ladivicus says, "I love to hate elves. Love to smash them too." Yeah, it's funny. I can't remember if I had this conversation with you, Carson, but like, I feel like we all have like a faction that we just don't like. You know what I mean? And yeah, like for me in 40K, it's Tau. I don't like Tau. I just, for some reason, they rub me the wrong way. I don't know what it is, but yeah, Do you have anything like that? Like, is there anything in AoS that you?
I don't like dwarves. Period.
You like dislike all dwarves?
Most
you should
dwarf
be a
factions
Skaven
I find
player.
to be like really one-dimensional, but
Yeah.
I'm going to say that I really don't like Fire Slayers. I think that their lore is kind of uninspired, and I think that their models are very uninspired.
Brutally.
But I will say that I really like KO. Their aesthetic is very interesting. It's like new, and their lore is really, really cool. How they're just like these crazy, like sky capitalist, like worshipping currency essentially.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and their lore is particularly interesting in how it actually kind of intersects with the old world. Like if you read the End Times novel, I think it's the Wrath of the Great Horned Rat or something like that. It's the Skaven centralized one. Half that book is actually about the dwarves and like how the gods kind of abandon them, and then at the end they go into the sky, and so like you can very much see their lore, and yeah, they're really interesting. I did find that reading, and I totally agree with you about Fire Slayers. Fire Slayers are my one faction. Like I almost like hate to even bring it up, but for me it's Fire Slayers for sure. But like what you say is true though. Like they're just their regular models are so boring. And then the Magmadroth is cool. Like I really like the Magmadroth. But what helped me though, I don't dislike them as much as I used to after reading the third Gotrek novel for AoS. It's the one with the Idnith as the sort of antagonist of the book, but the faction that Gotrek is hanging with is the Fire Slayers, and they're way like they became way more interesting for me after reading that. I still never gonna collect them, you know what I mean? But I could see doing like Chaos Dwarves though, like I don't know.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I'm there with you. Also, I like KO more after reading the second Gotrek book because it's similarly, it's the same kind of thing. But
yeah. Jeremiah J says Flesh Eater Courts had a nerf. Can't summon the Beast Slayer Ghoul unit for free.
Oh, right, that's true. I forgot about that.
Was that in the most recent battle scroll, or was that the one before that did that?
I want to say it was the one before where we got the 6 units for single model coherency.
I see.
I think. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremiah. Welcome to the stream, by the way, and thank you for that. That's a really good note. I did forget about that. Do you hate Gotrek? I used to dislike Gotrek a little bit because he's like the foil to who I think is the true protagonist and hero of Age of Sigmar and the old world, which is Thankful. But not everyone sees it that way. It's weird. I don't know what to tell you, but I don't know. He's the old William King novels are clearly the best, but the new ones are so good. He's just so irreverent. He's almost like Thor, where he's just like charging around, getting drunk and getting into fights. He flies off the handle. I don't know. And also the voice acting in those books is so good. Like if you listen to the Audible version, that's actually how I would recommend consuming them. But yeah, I like him now. I have to admit, I never wanted to buy the model until very recently after Kenrick posted his picture of the Gotrek versus Gotrek in the tournament. And I was like, why didn't I ever buy him? And then I was thinking about it. And I was like, oh yeah, I didn't really like him before. And now I do. But I'm not sure if I should ever buy him because he's like, I don't know. I want to paint the model, but I'm not sure that I want to use him in a game. And that's kind of where I get off a bit.
Maybe that kind of works out.
Right.
He has like a display base and a regular play base.
That's
so
true.
Just paint the display base. Though it does have, I think, Dead Skaven on it.
It does.
So
I was just about to
that.
say I'd have to cut those things off yeah. Although I'm not sure why I'm so, why I care quite so much. A real Skaven wouldn't care about dead Skaven. He'd walk over their bodies. Yep. Thankful is greatest, best, most powerful. Just as Thankful. It's true. I try to live my life by what would Thankful do. And it's gotten me this far. Yeah. It's true. Delusion.
As for the rest of
Yep, sorry.
Did you want to go through the factions one by one, or we've kind of reached the 50% mark?
We have. I do. There's a couple more things I want to talk about, but Keith says he dislikes Sons of Behemat. They look like they should be big, dumb monsters walking around killing things in combat, but they are just big, dumb models that sit on objectives and hold until slain. That's definitely the Kraken Eater, hey?
Yeah.
Have you seen how Alex played them, Keith, in that game? He's played Sons of Behemat a couple of times. He plays them as Smash Your Face. I like how he plays them, but... sorry, what were you going to say?
I don't remember.
Careful being living like Thankful could be a criminal. It's true, and a drug addict, if you know your lore. But, people love drugs. So, one thing I wanted to point out. So I posted a battle report that I did last week on last Tuesday. And I can't remember if I said this on the air or not, but someone said there's no point of even watching this. I think I might have said this, right? And so,
yep.
Like, I'm bringing this up for a reason. You look at the Skaven stats, 43% is really low. But you can do it. Like, I think Skaven, I think a lot of people get into AoS and fantasy for Skaven, right? So... my point is just to say, I don't think it's nearly as bad as it looks here. And, don't be discouraged by these numbers for Skaven. I think they're a lot better than they appear. You just got to learn to use your tactics, use your clan rats. Clan rats are the backbone of your army. And yeah, you can definitely do it. And if you're struggling with them, we've got some videos on how to play them, how to use your gnaw holes effectively, all sorts of stuff. Quite a few different videos on tactics for them. But one thing that I found interesting, like one of the few other ones I want to talk about, one is Stormcast. Huge sample size, 152, 42% win rate. The worst win rate in the game, in my opinion, because I'm not counting cities. I just don't think there's any point when they're in such a weird limbo state. But what do you think about that? Like, they just got another huge round of buffs.
I think it's going to keep happening, just because you'll certainly see like very good Stormcast players that can put a good list together.
Yep.
But this book is huge. Like, it's like Space Marine levels of huge already.
Yep.
Despite being like a way younger faction.
Right.
And because of that, and in addition to that, sorry, they're in like basically every single
Starter
starter
set.
box.
Yep.
So like anytime someone wants to get into the hobby and sees one of those big starter boxes, half of those people effectively are going to be playing Stormcast.
And I think
So
more because I think like it's still when you go into a Games Workshop and you're like, "Ooh, Seraphon, like I love dinosaurs." They're still just like, "Well, but first you should buy this giant starter box because you get all the rules and then you get two
yeah,
armies and blah blah blah." And like look at the price difference and I think they're still just selling them so it's still the first, you know what I mean? Yeah.
yeah. So I could certainly see someone being like, I have all of the models, and these are like my you know, Stormcast. I'm not going to say they're easy to paint, but they're probably easier to paint than a lot of other factions because they were designed to be so like kind of Space Marine-esque, where there's like lots of rounded, big edges
Mhm.
for you to be able to like have a little bit easier of a time putting a
Yep.
paintbrush on.
Yep.
Um, so I feel like you're probably going to see a lot of people having painted Stormcast collections that they're like, I might as well check out this tournament scene, seeing what it's like. So I could see there's like a lot of new players bringing Stormcast to tournaments.
I think it probably has the most amount of new players probably even over Seraphon just because yeah like all the previously stated reasons um, so yeah I think you can definitely win with them and another interesting one was Night Haunt 44%. That one's so interesting because when that book came out everyone's like they're going to be OP, they're going to get nerfed. Like I saw a lot of people going like I don't want to play them because they're just going to get nerfed anyway. And they did have a couple of sort of nerfs, you know what I mean? But then nothing big, but they've just kind of slowly gone down. Um, so I wonder if, the recent change will make a difference.
Maybe, but I don't think it will personally.
Might not.
Um, it's an old book, right?
Pretty
And
old, yep.
it just has a lot of like not very great war scrolls as far as like the damage output that you can get.
Yeah.
And sure, if you like keep like cutting their points more and more and more, eventually like it'll flip and you can just take so many models, then it doesn't even matter anymore.
Right.
But I still don't think that we're really going to see that anytime soon.
Well, and before too, they were a very popular new person army. Like, they have one of the most popular aesthetics in all of Age of Sigmar, and so that there could be a little bit of an issue there too. But I feel like I think you could. I think they're like a 3-2 army for sure. But yeah, I could see them. I could see them doing better. But yeah, bunch of other. Actually, the only other thing I want to talk about is Deepkin and Gits. For me personally, so Deepkin are right below Maggotkin. 58 sample rate isn't huge, and this is before the changes. I don't think it's going to change that much, but I'm hoping that, that some of the changes will at least just attract some of the players who were, playing well with them before. And then Gits are interesting. They're kind of continuing. It's interesting that they're continuing to fall, even though they haven't had any changes. Like, what is that about?
I think they've just lost the top like bracket of their players probably. Like you have the diehard Gits fans that are going to play them no matter what.
They were playing
And
them
there's
before
probably
they got a book, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm sure that there's some good players among those people, but the really, really competitive people who saw like how powerful the Gits book was, have probably swapped to different armies by this point. So
Yeah, I think you're right. It's too bad. Yeah, only the fans remain. I think you can still do okay with them, but yeah, I still wish that they would reverse a couple of minor changes. I have no idea why Fell Waters are the same price as Rock Guts. Like, in what universe? The damage output, survivability, everything is on the Rock Guts. Yeah, but whatever.
totally fair.
The Rock Guts also look cooler, so it's fine. But yeah, right on. Well, anyway, I think we probably went into this a little more depth than we intended, but it's just, I don't know. These kinds of things are just inherently interesting to me. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you can get lost in them. And there's one big thing that I want to bring up. One
please.
last thing.
Yes.
Last time we saw a graph like this, ogres were sitting at 46%.
Forgot.
This time we're looking at it, ogres are sitting at 47%. So ogre
Da,
stocks
da,
are
da,
up.
da.
Yeah, we win.
Yeah, baby. I think Skaven are up too, but I can't remember. It was like
Yeah.
one depressing figure to a next. But
Yeah.
congratulations.
Earlier as well, like this is actually a really narrow spread too for everything to be in. I think we're ignoring Cities of Sigmar because that
Yeah.
doesn't count.
Yep.
Everything's within
60
17
to
points
40.
of each other,
Yep. That's true.
which is like really, really good. And most things are probably within the same 8 to 10 point range as well, which means that a majority of the time when you're going up against an opponent, just like differences wise, the chance in one direction or the other is probably only going to be like 10% max,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Which isn't bad at all.
No, it's really not. I think as a general rule, they're really like, they're getting better and better at balancing the game as a general rule. They're always going to come out with new and crazy rules and things are going to get out of whack for a bit, but that's part of this game. Like, you know, we want them to be creative in their rules writing. We want interesting things to happen. So, you know, as a general spread, if they can keep it between 60 and 40, they're doing pretty good, you know? Yeah.
Yep.
Coalesce dropped down to 38. This is after they got their points like buff or whatever. And so, but like, and I don't, it doesn't separate them here, unfortunately. It's kind of weird how they don't separate Coalesced and Starborn, but they separate Cruel Boys, Big Wa, Iron Jaws, and Bone Splitters into 4 different things. But
they are effectively different armies, though, is the thing.
It's true, but
Coalesced and Starborn are too. You're
yeah,
right.
like I don't think Big Wa, but I mean, like if you're gonna separate Iron Jaws and Cruel Boys and Bone Splitters, then at that point you kind of have to separate Big Wa. Otherwise, you just don't include them in the points. But yeah, more noise. Yeah, that's fair. Armies released in the last 6 to 9 months still sitting on top, though. The power creep is still going strong. You're not wrong. Although Flesh Eater Courts are now below again. They were up high before. And Big Wa is another one that's the oldest book with Stormcast. That's not Flesh Eater Courts from another edition. Daughters are old. Hedonites and Corn are not. KO were mid. Disciples are pretty old. Seraphon's new. Cruel Boys are older than God. And Bone Splitters, same. So I don't know that that's true, to be honest. Like, and then what do we have in the newer section? Do we have anything in the newer section that's near the bottom?
Slaves of Darkness.
Slaves, yeah. Poor slaves. I mean, Iron Jaws obviously haven't gotten their new refresh. Beasts of Chaos are one of the newer books.
Ogres is actually not a very old book. It's not even a year old, I think, anymore.
No way.
I'm pretty sure.
Ogres?
It was last fall, yeah, when they came out.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yep.
That's crazy. Big Wa going down a little with those Ard Boys points. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're going to do better overall now, just because like some of the synergy in that book is going to be pretty good, I think. Hard to say. I do think the Ard Boys are overpriced, though, same as the Saurus Warriors, but I might argue that the Ard Boys are better than the Saurus Warriors, too, because they have a natural 3-up as opposed to the 4-up, with +1 on objectives and that kind of nonsense. Because, like, but then, anyway, that's a whole other deal. It's hard to compare things when they have different sub-allegiance abilities and whatnot, but, yeah, I like it. Okay, so you were kind enough to send me so then next we were going to talk about Sparkle Party Deathmatch. You and Mr. Matthias and a bunch of the peeps from Warp Dice went down, along, of course, with the people from Dimensional Cascade and players from all over the area. Did you want to start talking about that while I find the? Oh, yeah, I found it. But do you want to talk about it?
Yeah. So Sparkle Party Deathmatch is a tournament in Seattle that's hosted, I believe, twice a year by Dimensional Cascade, which is we consider them to be our sister club, Warp Dice, but I don't know if it's mutual. I hope it's mutual.
I hope it's mutual.
Yeah, they're all really nice guys. It was a 52-person event. Lots of really, really competitive players there. Players that are, Team USA, Team Canada, i.e. Matthias, and players that do really well at like really big tournaments. Like Jeremy Lemoy was there, who won the U.S. Open in Tacoma, and yeah, just lots of really good players. Really fun time. Matt Beasley, who is one of the guys from Dimensional Cascade, hosted us Warp Dice players, and his wife painted all of our nails, which was put sparkles in my. You can probably see it on camera.
I was wondering about that because I was like, I don't remember you ever painting your nails before. But
no, I've never done that. And then I promptly realized when I got home, I don't have access to a nail polish remover, so we're just gonna deal with that. So I gotta get some nail polish remover.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a really fun time. Really competitive. Just lots of effort put in as always from Dimensional Cascade, and just wanted to say thanks. And yeah, there's a couple interesting things where we were using the new battle scroll. However, Cities of Sigmar new book was allowed, but you weren't allowed to use unreleased models.
Right. Yeah.
Units, yeah. So like the Fusiliers, for instance, are not available at the moment, so you couldn't proxy them. So you had to use only currently released models with the new book, which was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then in addition, for the Iron Jaws like supplement,
yeah,
this was like a weird one, but you had to use the rules from the supplement that applied. So it was just Ard Boys that changed, because the other models were releasing, I believe, on that day, like that the tournament started.
Right.
So that did mess with a couple Iron Jaws players lists.
That we know.
That we know, yeah. But otherwise, it was a really fun time. The result ended up being that Matthias took Best General, which is not surprising because he's a fantastic player. I ended up taking Best Overall, which was very surprising to me. I thought Matt Beasley was going to take it because there were two 5-0s by the end of the tournament, one of which was Matthias, and the other one was Matt Beasley. So somehow via sports and painting, I made up the points to be able to get Best Overall. So I'll take it.
Yeah. Take what you can get.
Yeah. The awards mats were super cool. That art that's in the background that you see for Sparkle Party, that was made by, I believe, Starks, who is the TO, his partner.
Right.
And then Ricky Fisher printed that art out onto like a full-size battle map, and then printed the little lines around it for all the objective markers. So every time someone comes over to my house, I can flex on them by like putting the award mat down and playing on it with them. Like, oh yeah, that's it's just Sparkle Party Deathmatch Best Overall. That's all, you know.
You should show you should show everyone the mat. Or is it not? Is it inconvenient to do so?
In a tube.
Oh, right enough. Yeah.
Here, one sec.
Okay. I goaded him, everyone. You're welcome. That is a good point about doing it near or having an open window when you're removing nail polish. That's a good note. Put glitter all over his head. You know what sucks is I don't know if you guys remember, but I bought this stuff called unicorn snot and I put it all over my face. Oh, look at you. It's upside down. There we go. Best overall, Spinminix. That's what it says, right? It's not Sparkle Party Deathmatch 9. I believe it's Spinminix. As Keith says, make sure you open a window if you're going to remove your nail polish, Carson. Yeah. My wife has some, by the way, so if you want to just come up and use it, that's cool. Don't buy your own bottle. Wow. Oh, man, that thing's so rad. God dang. It's like, to be honest, it looks even cooler than it does in the what do you call it? In the ad art. Whoop, you disappeared. It went into the meat dimension. Also, you appear to be muted. What the crap is going? Skyrim. The Skyrim cameras run amok on us. Yeah, I try to get other people to wear that sparkle crap you can put on your face, but no one would do it. It's very sad. Can you just use acetone, Bahamut, for nail polish? By the way, who did the art? Like, do you know the name of the person? I always like to...
I can't remember their name, unfortunately. But if anyone from Dimensional Cascade or anyone else does know their name in the chat, please put it in the chat. That'd be awesome.
I would love that. I always like to give artists credit. My brother's an artist, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They've done it for all of the past ones, and they're also selling like little pictures, which I actually realized I completely forgot to buy one. But one of them was like a old blood on Carnosaur, like riding through the jungle, like super, like
Yes.
stylized and amazing.
Yep. Didn't Matthias
all of
win that or something?
Mason did.
Mason.
Remember, he
Oh,
was
was
on
it
the show last
Mason?
week.
Right. That's who it was. I was like, someone I know. Their
Yeah.
name starts with an M. But yes, that
it was a good time.
Carnosaur one was cool.
It was a good time. I guess if you want, we can kind of like go down the rankings and talk about some interesting things that I saw during the event,
For sure.
which was pretty cool.
And
The,
if anyone knows it, if they could message me on the Discord or something, the name of the person who did this art, I wouldn't mind working with them and maybe making some kind of like art for the podcast if they're willing, and depending on,
I mean, I can reach out to Stark and get you two in touch super easily. So.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I'd appreciate that. Cool. So, okay, it's a solvent. I think there is acetone in nail polish remover, but I don't remember and never mix chemicals, so I don't. But anyway, okay, so what should I click on, Carson? You guide me.
So if you go to placings.
Okay. Placings. Do. Here we go.
So the placings are a little bit messed up, actually.
Okay.
Just because. So now that you're there, it's wrong.
Excellent. I'm so glad.
No, but basically what ended up happening is you'll see that it's separated into like top cut, bracket 2, bracket 3, etc., whatnot. That wasn't there on the first day, so we played like 3 full games without brackets whatsoever, and then on the second day there was like a top cut. Unfortunately, the TO side of BCP is a little bit wonky, and when Stark decided to cut things into brackets, it cut it into like way too many brackets, and I'm pretty sure it was like undoable.
Oh, damn.
So we still played the tournament out as is and stuff like that, and but just what you see isn't exactly the same. I sent you a picture which has the true rankings based on battle score on Facebook if you want to look at that.
Sure. I closed Facebook because I didn't want it dinging while I was.
Yep, no worries.
Okay. Fine.
The top 2 are still correct though.
Okay. Cool. Matthias and Matt Beasley.
Yes, sir.
Guide.
So what ended up happening was, I believe, last games were Matthias versus Mason, and Matt Beasley versus.
Oh darn! Whoops.
Who was this last match? Matthew Kangasser, who was a Slaves to Darkness player, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's the proper. So basically, the battle score, they use like the 500-point system for wins and losses and whatnot. That's the top 40-ish.
Nice.
And as you can see, Matthias was first place, Matt Beasley second place, Chris Hall, who was actually a Grin and Blades Cruel Boys player, was third place. He went 4-1. I was fourth place, playing my ogres as always, and then Mason, who was on the channel last week, ended up coming fifth place. But what's interesting?
You beat him by 1 point. Oh man, kick to the crotch.
Oh yeah. That's how it goes. But So he brought that list that he talked about last week, which had like the Tenebral Blades, like ignoring saves, as well as like 9 chariots
Right.
that all had like +1 attack. And it turns out it crushed.
Yeah.
Like it did really, really, really well. And he was on top tables for the last game, and he was actually in first place for basically the entire tournament
Really.
until he played Matthias, who
Ooh.
swatted him away, like Matthias does.
Yeah,
But
I did say his final battle points in that game was 2 points. Which
yeah, I'm not
is
sure
that a
exactly
mistake?
what happened, but Matthias definitely showed him
I don't.
what for.
That'll teach you to be a super nice guy and come on the podcast.
Yeah, but it was an interesting because Mason basically showed us like one of the very powerful combos that's coming up in Cities of Sigmar
Right.
that doesn't use any of the new models whatsoever.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting. A lot of people had a really tough time with it just because it was simultaneously super tough, could shred things like basically ignoring saves, and also had like extremely good ranged support. So it was tough for a lot of people to deal with. Just 4 likes, shame on you all, says Robin Mankiller.
Well, while you're here, if you're watching this live or if you're watching it later, if you wouldn't mind just sliding your mouse button down or randomly start pushing buttons on your screen, all of it's appreciated.
Mouth button, not
Yeah.
mouse button.
Exactly. Oh wait, you hit unsubscribe. No, I mean anything with that. No, I appreciate it. Oh, I appreciate the thing there, Robin. The reminder. That's really nice of you. What's up, Darren? I do like that Warpstone is choosing to believe that there are 50 rounds in each game.
Yes.
So, how did Matt Beasley also did really well here.
He did. Yeah, he took Zinch.
Yeah, Summoners
Yeah.
Guild.
Yeah. I'm not sure what his matchup. Actually, we can go through his matchups if you want to kind of explore that a little bit. Because I find with Zinch as an RB, it really depends on if you get matched into one of your like direct counters.
Yeah,
Essentially,
for sure.
Because if you get matched into like Null Myriad or even Korn can be a problem, then you're kind of hooped.
Right. Null Myriad, Korn, and I found actually Slave to Darkness a terrible matchup because a lot of the army has Mortal Wound Shrug, and
It does, yeah.
and it has decent anti-casting and really good combat.
Yep.
But I mean, and I'm far from an expert, but he had a Magister as the general. Command traits, Arcane Sacrifice, that's interesting. A great Bray Shaman, Kairos, love that. Vortimus, the All-Seeing. Who's Vortimus? Is that the new warband? I don't even know who that is.
Yeah,
Zangor Shaman. Wow, this is such an interesting list. 10 Horrors, Acolytes, Simulacrum. I always just call it random things. And then the Eyes of 9, Screamers, Zangor Enlightened. Wow, what an interesting list, man. I'm gonna have to talk to him later about that. That looks really
We can
cool.
also talk to Alex because he got slapped by it. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I pulled up all of his pairings. So
Cool.
Game 1, he played against the only other Cities of Sigmar player, which... Remember that Steam Tanks list that we talked about last week?
That looked cool.
So it ended up doing quite well. But it was Beasley's first matchup.
Okay.
And the one weakness for the Steam Tanks, unfortunately, is like it has no wards whatsoever. It relies just on its like super good save. So I feel like that probably was a problem because that's like Zinch's #1 source of damage is mortal wounds via spells, right?
Right.
So I could see that being a problem for sure. His second matchup was Alex, who is playing Big Wah. I'm not sure how that. From what I heard, basically Alex rolled like terribly.
Poopy, yeah. What, Alex? That doesn't sound like him.
Nah, never happens.
Yeah.
No, I remember Beasley, I think, coming up to Jeremy and saying like that was like the worst rolling he's seen in a while. So that's unfortunate.
I don't know how he manages to do that every time, but
I don't know either. His third round was against Foythan Ideneth.
Cool.
Which I'd be interested to see that matchup because like you can target the chickens right away with all those sharks, which would be probably pretty devastating.
That's true.
The only thing is that the sharks are only 8 wounds each, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of like mortal wound splash damage from Tzeentch, and
Yep.
there's also some ranged attacks too, so that would have been an interesting matchup. The fourth round would have been against, let me see. Fourth round, oh, no. What's going on here?
And by the way, for anyone in the, in the chat and whatnot, how do you get Vortimus? What is he even from? He must be from
He's an Underworld band, isn't he?
isn't he? But like, I don't see him under Disciples of Tzeentch, so I'm not even sure if you can even buy him anymore. I was just curious because like, I don't know anything about him, but I guess he does something cool. He's a cool looking model, but yeah.
Yeah. His fourth matchup was Coalesced Seraphon, Joseph Sai, which was one of the Dimensional Cascade members, who's actually doing quite well. He is, if you want to take a look at Joseph Sai's list, it's kind of interesting.
I would love to.
It's Thunder Lizards.
Oh, I remember that list. That was a cool list. I think there's play there, especially if you're like you've got a variety of monsters, so you're getting the most out of it. Here we go. He's Coatl's Claw. Joseph Sai?
Mixed up.
Unless it just like got registered wrong. Yep, Coatl's Claw.
Oh, my bad.
No worries, but he does have some cool.
Worth taking a look at for sure.
Oh, this is similar to what I was one of my lists. I like it. Okay,
yeah,
so
he seemed to do really well with it. 2 groups of 6 Agrodons is no joke. Also 6 Croxagore, which is kind of cool. I'm sure you could Hoarfrost them into being good.
Yep.
Yeah, just lots of hammers. Really, really tough because it's coalesced.
Yep.
Tensaurus Warriors is a bit of a screen, and then yeah, seems pretty.
And he chose regular Croxagore. That's really interesting. I like it because then I guess you can get the most out of the Hoarfrost spell itself. And then does he have he does have acolytes because the Astrolith Bearer has the Arcane Tome. What an interesting list. So you get the +1 to cast, and then you're also getting an extra dice half the time. That's wow. Good on him. That's a really cool list. I really like it.
Yeah, and clearly it did really well. He ended up coming 12th with it.
Yeah.
But honestly, probably the only reason he came 12th is because he faced Matt Beasley at the end, who ended up coming 2nd, right? So he did really well.
Yeah.
Which is cool to see.
Man, Matt Beasley's such a strong player.
He's a really strong player. Really nice guy.
Yeah.
Really, really good player.
He's been kind enough to be on the channel before when we were talking about Tzeentch. But wow. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And then what else? Just like more fun things from our club. Dale, who is playing his Avatars of Cain, Daughters of Cain list, came 7th, which is super cool. 4-1.
Very cool.
Supposedly it was like really, really neck and neck for who was going to get best overall between me and him, but just because my last game, I think I scored like just a little bit more in some of the games, which ended up putting me over the edge, which is, yeah.
And who did Dale lose to? I don't know.
Matthias.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah. So Dale lost against Matthias in round 3, I want to say, or maybe, I think it was 3.
Okay. Dang.
Khorne is just a tough army to deal with.
Yep.
For sure. And Dale, I know, is not particularly experienced when it comes to like playing Khorne super often.
Right.
So there was a couple things that caught him off guard. Like I think he mentioned that he had forgotten that you can murder lust up to 3 times, rather than it just being 1. So that kind of caught him off guard a little bit and tied up his Avatars of Cain, which is a little rough. But
and before you could just spend 1 blood tithe point and just get 3 of them, but now you at least have to spend 3 of them. Although I guess at this tournament that wasn't a thing yet, or was it? Did this tournament include the FAQ change for that?
For what, sorry?
Like, you know how like before with blood tithe you had to, if you spent 1 blood tithe point, you could murder lust 3 units flat, and now you have to spend 1 blood tithe point for each unit up to 3 to murder
Yeah, it
lust.
included that FAQ. I think
It
that was a
included?
while
Okay.
ago.
I couldn't remember, to be honest, so I feel like it must
Yeah.
have included that, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, 1 blood tithe per murder list you want to do.
Right.
Isn't Dale losing to Matthias at events tradition at this point? No comment.
Yeah. I wasn't going to touch that.
Yeah.
I,
It's a weird triangle because I've never lost to Matthias. Matthias has never lost to Dale, I think, at a tournament. Dale has never lost to me in any of the games that we've played. So it's just like this horrible triangle of like just keeps going around. It's just like yeah.
So Matthias dodged you at tournament, hey?
He did because the second it's kind of a Matthias
Speak
said
of the
that
devil.
too. Like it's kind of a meme that like any time we get matched up in a tournament is like when he doesn't go 5-0 basically.
Matthias, speak of the devil. He's in the chat.
There he goes.
He's been summoned, he says. He lost to Dale once. Never again.
Never. Okay, so then that's where the chain breaks.
Right.
Where it's no longer an infinite triangle.
Oh, okay.
Never beating anyone. So thank you, Matthias. You broke the chain. Thank you.
Thank you, Matthias. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Matthias was my demon. I never beat him until I got super lucky on the channel and sent Kragnos into his Guo and smashed him to pulp. I hope he'll crush me with results if he does. Yep.
Insults.
Oh, insults. A fellow masochist I see, like Carson. I'm sorry, I forgot to message you and insult you on Friday. I was busy.
That's why I lost.
That's true.
Why I lost my second game.
I feel nothing, but
Oh, my second game was really interesting, actually. Actually, why don't I talk through like my 5 rounds?
sure, yeah, I'd love to hear it.
So number 1 was against Barak Zon, Will Reeves. So like Caradron Overlords, which is a very like hyper aggressive, like bolts are just gonna fly directly in front of you, drop off a bunch of engine riggers and sky wardens, and just absolutely murder you with first strike and +1 to hit and wound. However, I double turned him, and then I parked a Stonehorn directly between the 2 boats and just like punched everything inside. And I was like, I've since learned that like the what's it called? Like the people that are inside the boats are the scary parts of KO, and the boats are just like floating tin cans, basically. They don't really do anything.
I thought the big boat was still scary.
Yeah, the Ironclad's pretty scary.
Okay.
Barracks on will only ever have frigates, is the thing. So it's
okay.
just like I also learned that obviously everything inside of a KO boat is still on the battlefield. So what you do with ogres is just you charge the boat and you put the charge mortals into the dudes inside the boat. And then a fun fact as well is that when the Stonehorn does his fly over mortal wounds thing, he's flying over technically
everything. He just has to
too.
clip the boat, hey?
Yeah, exactly. We just bumped back and forth.
That is
and I was like,
evil.
D3 mortal wounds, and he was just shredding everything.
Oh
inside.
my god.
It was bad.
That's evil, but I do love it. I do, in fact, think it's...
Yeah. And then my second game was against my personal demon, Jeremy Lemoy, who beat me at the top tables in Tacoma, ended up winning the US Open Tacoma. And also he beat me with Aussie Arc Bone Reapers as well at this tournament in the second game. We got paired up together. It was a really interesting and pretty close match, actually, where he was playing pretty reserved with his Immortus Guard. I give him the first turn. He garrisons the Immortus Guard with like 2 of his characters, and he ends up basically like, this is lines of communication. He ends up, getting his 5 points his first turn. I go after him, playing pretty reserved. Don't really kill anything. I think I kill like a Morghast with shooting or something like that. Move up a little bit. We're both playing really cagey. The Stonehorn goes and charge some KDR. The only issue is that he won every rollout, all of them.
Oh.
And I was like, oh god. And it would have actually been okay. Where what I ended up doing was I surrounded the garrison almost entirely with just a line of Noblars. So I was like, now you can't get out, except like way back there, and that's totally fine with me. But he had one character in the garrison as well that had Blizzard, and he ended up doing 19 mortal wounds to the Noblars.
19?
19. And basically
Jesus.
wiping the entire unit, and then he could just step out totally fine. Because even if he did like the average amount, which I think is 13 or 14, I have 6
Yeah.
left, then I can just space them out like 6 inches away from each other, and it effectively does the same thing. He can't get out, right?
Right.
But there's like 1 or maybe 2 Noblars left, and it just shut down my whole plan. It
Wow.
was rough.
So if you charge a terrain piece then with like ogres, can you put all the wounds into the character?
Yep.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, I absolutely could have done that. I was a little too far away to be able to like reliably do that, I think.
Fair.
Maybe not. No, I guess I wasn't. I don't know. There was definitely some things I could have done better that game, but it was just a little rough as far as that stuff went.
Well, and he's obviously a well-known, very strong player.
He's a well-known, very strong player, really nice guy as well. Absolutely, he deserved that win. But yeah.
And sorry, what he was playing Soulblight?
No, he was playing Ossiarch.
Bone Reapers, right.
Yep. He had the 3 Kabalos Death Riders, like 3 groups of 5, and then some Immortus Guards, some Morghasts, no Arcana Black, 2 Mortisans, and Catacross. And still ended up smacking me pretty good.
That's awesome.
And just because he won a bunch of the roll-offs, he double turned me at a really, really bad time.
Yeah.
Not good. Not good.
Speaking of double turns, though, your and Andy's game came out. The battle report is out there, and it's so good. It just swings back and forth constantly. And people said some really nice things about you, like Keith just did in the chat there about Matthias. I say that all the time. Like, I've said it on the podcast. I've said it, in the battle reports. I always enjoy playing against Matthias, and even when he crushes me, which is most of the time. And yeah, it's always been like that. Agreed.
He's a great guy.
Yep. Very, very strong player.
Tournaments with him.
Yeah, but what Keith said is exactly kind of what I've been saying. It's just that, I always have fun. And I mean, I could see some people who are like on the spike side of things psychographically having trouble playing Matthias because, you know what I mean? If your motivation and the way you enjoy the game is winning, then it's a little tough because he's such a strong player. But luckily I'm not like that. That's like the one part of the psychographic profile that I do not cover. So that was your second game. By the way,
game 3.
What's with these scores? Like, why is it 517 and then?
It's just a different scoring system.
Is it? Oh, okay.
I think we're using the same thing at Kippers as well.
We're basically
a loss starts at 0, and then the draw is 100 or 200. A minor victory is like 300 or something, and then a major victory is 500.
Oh.
And then what happens is you do a differential added on to that based on the points. So like that's why you'll see like 522, 520, that sort of thing. It's based on like how much more you went above like just a major victory.
Interesting.
And major victory is like determined by the battle plan. You'll see like how it's defined on like each and every single battle plan.
Right.
So yeah, that's why like you'll see differences of like 500. But I find this a little odd.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one because it's like Adam P here won 3 games and he's in 11th.
Well, remember this isn't.
Are they all like that?
This isn't the true ranking, right? They got resorted into your true battle scores.
Oh, right. Okay.
So Adam P. Where is he?
Oh, these are in brackets or something.
His true rank is actually 10th overall in the tournament.
Okay.
So you can see the numbers as they're counting down like that. But I think that makes sense. Like usually in a tournament, you'll see rankings that are based on your win bracket, and then within your win bracket, it's like how many actual battle points you have.
I see. Fair enough.
Personally, my favorite system is like true differential, where basically what you do is you take start at 10, and then I think you like take the difference between the 2 scores.
Yeah.
Divide it by 2, and then add it onto 10 for the winner and subtract it from 10 for the loser. I'm pretty sure.
They usually do that in 40K. I think it's a better system.
I like that system a lot. It's also like way easier to understand as a player. Like you can do that calculation yourself if you want to.
Right.
And it's really easy to just like poop it into a calculator. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too is that like uh, I don't. I mean, I still don't think we've quite figured this out. Like, and it's no offense to anyone in any tournament ever, but like frequently I've seen people like win, and then they get to top tournament or top table, they barely lose, and then they're not like number two or even anywhere near it. And it's just like, how does that work? Like, if you were playing on top table against the person who won, how are you not in second? Like, unless you have like, like a terrible personality and you painted your entire army with a toothbrush, like, I don't know. There's something about it that just doesn't quite sit right for me. But
Yeah, there's a lot of weird things. Like, personally, I kind of agree where there should probably be an exception for like the top spots, where it's like if you lose to the top person, you can get second,
yeah,
and that's just it, right?
yeah,
That makes a lot of sense to me. It's like they're the top dog in the tournament. The only person you lost to is them. So boom, there you go.
yeah.
Or maybe if there's like multiple 5-0s or something, you get bumped to the top of the 4-1s or
Yep.
something. That
Yeah,
makes sense to
exactly.
me. But it's tough because like anytime you do a bracket system of any kind,
Yeah,
you're effectively saying like, so well, let's say like you play 3 games to determine like which bracket you should be placed in, and then for the last 2 games you have to play in that bracket. It's entirely possible that you just got matched up against like your direct counter armies for
that's
those games,
true.
and it's entirely possible that someone who's in the very top bracket got matched up against like 3 basically brand new players who are also like
Yep,
they directly counter.
that's true.
So when you're not constantly reassessing things, I think it's kind of a problem. I'm
Right.
personally a fan of up until the last game within your win bracket having it be completely random. That makes a lot of sense. So it's like the first round has to be obviously 100% random because there's no way that you can really determine past that.
Yeah.
The second one I think can be where you are in your win bracket doesn't matter. You're randomly playing against someone else because anything can happen the first game. It's again random.
As long as you're playing against someone else who won.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Win brackets are like your 1-0 or 0-1 or something like that. That way, I think that as the tournament goes on, you're like slowly kind of like nudging up and down based on like how you're doing against people that are relatively the same, should be the same skill level as you.
Yeah.
And then I think the only amendment I would make to that is that thing that we just talked about, which is first place, basically like whoever they beat comes second.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I would prefer. I know it's hard because like this game takes so long to play that you can't do it like, honestly, in an ideal world, like I really like the fighting game format where it's double elimination. Like they actually did at the Worlds down in New Mexico last year, where as soon as you lose twice, you're out, and then there's a winner's bracket and a loser's bracket, and then that helps sort things. But yeah, I like Ladivicus is saying I was Team Matthias when he played Skaven, but now he's playing Korn. He's on Team Carson, at least until Matthias goes back to the Ras. Yes, he's not wrong, Matthias. Smarten up.
I also like what Keith said earlier, which is tough opponents with great attitudes are the best thing that you can find. You learn lots trying to beat them, and they aren't jerks about it.
Totally.
And there's another praise that I can sing about Jeremy Lemoy. Later on after our game, I always ask if I lose. I should probably ask if I win too. Like, what could I have done better?
Yep.
And we kind of talked it out. And like right after the game, he was like, "I think I kind of just got lucky." And I was like, "All right." But he approached me later and actually had some real feedback that was really valuable to me. And it's nice that he was just thinking about that instead of just kind of moving on with the rest of his tournament. So I was really appreciative of that.
What a gentleman! A gentleman and a scholar. I love it. We should get him on the channel too if we can at some point. That'd be cool.
I have no idea how to contact him.
I'm sure someone knows.
I mean, I assume I'll see him at B&W Masters in November. So.
Hell yeah. Yeah, well, maybe you can hook it up, Buttercup, or something. I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, we got super sidetracked. Third game was against KO.
Right. Before you, I just didn't want to forget, Warpstone said, have you seen the Australian Masters format? I have not, Warpstone. Neither one of us knows, so feel free to explain. I guess Matthias said that's using a strength of schedule as the first tiebreaker. He doesn't know Australian. 16 player, 4-round bracket, 3.5 hours per game. I do kind of like the longer games. Huh. Interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting. I recognize that it's tough to balance based on how much time and how
It
many
is.
games you can realistically
Yeah.
play in 2 days.
Hmm.
Um, because like the answer theoretically is always just play more games. Like you
Yeah.
can do winners brackets, that's the fairest thing you can do. But if you just have like theoretically an infinite number of games until there's only one person who hasn't been beat, um, yeah, that's like the best way to do it. But you can never guarantee that, right? Like if you play a 5 game tournament, I think the moment you get over 32 people,
Right.
there's going to be two 5-0s, or it's likely that there's going to be two 5-0s.
Right.
So that's why at like really huge tournaments, like I think at LVO technically there's 8 rounds, where like you play 5 rounds in the regular tournament, and then there's like the winners bracket on the last day of Sunday, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
And I did 8 rounds at Nova as well. Like it's a common thing to see there. But when you have these like kind of big but not massive events that have like 50, 60 people, I don't think you can get away with asking people to stay there for 3 days.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, yeah, it's like it would limit your tournament so much to even attempt something like that. But yeah, sorry, I didn't want to sidetrack you too much, but so
Oh, no
game
worries.
game three.
One more thing,
Oh,
sorry. It's
please,
interesting
yeah.
in the other direction too, because at the Aegis GT that I went to 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, it was the other direction because like there were 5 games, but there were only 12 players, which meant that on the end of game 3, which is on the first day,
Yeah.
I ended up beating Matthias, and I think I was the only undefeated player at that point.
Okay.
So then the last 2 games, it was just the person who was 3-0 playing against like the next
Oh,
people under there,
I
which is
see.
interesting because then it's like you get a second chance as someone who's like 3-1 or 2-1 or something like that. But it can be a little odd, and also you know it feels like it was resolved in the first day with that little people, I guess.
Yeah. Um, it's that. I mean, that's like a kind of a separate thing. Like 12 players, you're playing like half the people in the tournament, basically. Everyone is. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of an interesting problem.
Yep. Game 3 though was against Keraton Overlords with Gotrek.
No, my. Wow.
And by the end of the game, I had like a ton of ogres surrounding just the borders, the edges of the map, and Gotrek was the only model he had left in the direct center of the board. And I was
Jeez.
like, "Don't touch me! Like, get away from me!" So I just ignored him the entire game and killed everything else. Um, yeah,
That works because he's slow.
he is, and it was also Fountains of Frost, which is 3 objectives, and it's 3 objectives. So I was just
Oh.
like, I don't have to engage with you at all. I'm just
You
gonna stay
do
away from you.
you. How
Yeah,
many points is he again?
four or no, it's a high 300s or 400s, I think.
Wow. That's crazy. And like when you do mortal wounds to him, don't they just all become one mortal wound or something?
Yep.
That's
So if I do my trampling charge thing into him, it's just shortened down to 1. So
and he
that's
gets
why
a
I was like,
and he gets a
everything I
three
have
up,
is
right?
multi-damage. So sorry.
Yeah. And he gets a 3 up against it, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And he gets a
Yeah.
3 up, 480 points. Yeah. Um.
Phew.
So I was like, I don't have anything that can shut off wards. I don't have anything that spams 1 damage attack at like high rend or anything. Uh. So I'm just not going to engage with him.
That's super
Yeah.
smart actually. I like Ludivicus says he's 480, same as the Kron spine. I feel like there's an undertone there of like the other annoying thing. Just kidding. Yeah, but not wrong. That's cool though. And then just kill everything else, all the mobile stuff, anything that can be on an objective, and then it's just Gotrek running
Yep.
around trying to, yeah, smart,
Yeah, exactly.
loves it.
So yeah, won that game, and then moving on to day 2, I played against Big Wah. Was my first game. And that was interesting because I've only ever actually played against Iron Jaws. I didn't play against like the full Big Wah. He had
Oh, okay.
so he had some pigs, he had some brutes, he had the Maw Crusher, he had Gobsprack, he had some
Huh.
shamans and stuff. It was a pretty interesting list.
Did he have
And
some what do you call them? Bolt boys?
no, he didn't have Bolt Boys.
Really?
No Bolt Boys.
But he had the
Yeah.
shaman. Huh.
He leaned more into maybe
Magic.
it's not the shaman. Sorry, it might not have been the shaman. I might
Oh.
have been wrong. He had a wizard that was like, the plumy smoke one.
Oh, the weird knob. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
I
I
can't
think so.
remember. Yeah, yeah. He's a cool model.
Yeah, and then he had the like stare you to death guy as well,
Wardock.
which was, yep.
He's cool.
Um, yeah, he is super cool. And that game, to be honest, so I actually took the first turn against him
Yeah.
because I was like, okay, I want to get, or no, no, I sorry, I took the second turn against him.
Okay.
He didn't do a whole lot with his. This was Towers in the Tundra. He only like claimed the two objectives and kind of stayed back a little bit because I was really castled up.
Okay.
But luckily he was like out of range to unbind a whole lot, so I ended up doing magical dominance, and then just like whipping a Stonehorn at him, just to be like, I'm gonna try and kill Gobsprak because that's the source of like turning off my ward, and if I
Yep.
can kill him immediately, then I just have a Stonehorn in his backline that he has to deal with.
And it's not that hard to kill him. He's like got a 5-up save and 14
It
wounds
is.
and a 6-up ward. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's not too hard to kill him at all.
Yeah.
But needless to say, the Stonehorn completely whipped. Like, failed to kill Gobsprak, and then I think took like 6 or 7 wounds from Gobsprak.
What?
And some pigs.
Did he?
Or like 1 or 2 pigs.
Oh, okay,
Um,
okay, okay. I was gonna say he must have rolled
Yeah.
really well on his mortal wound attack things.
Yeah. But so basically there I was, like, brown pants moment. With my
Brown
Stonehorn like
pants.
directly next to the guy that shuts off the Frost Lord's ward. And one thing that I forgot, which was I put him within 12 inches of a Blizzard hero.
Oh my
as well.
god.
And I was like, this game is over. I'm gonna lose. But then I rolled and I double turned him, and I just absolutely demolished him. Like, it was.
Wow.
So basically, at that point, I was like, I'm gonna lose, and then I get the double turn, and then just all of my foot ogres catch up and just slam into him, kill Gobsprak, kill his general, kill like almost all of his brutes, almost all of his pigs, and get the Maw Crusher to like maybe 3 wounds left or something.
Jeez.
And then he was like, "Well, this isn't good." And then he does his next turn, doesn't really do a whole lot, and then I take the next turn after that and basically like clean up. And that's kind of where we called it.
Oof.
So that was a game where if I just didn't get the double turn, I would have probably lost, or it would have been way, way harder for me to pull it through. And that was like purely me just being dumb, or probably tired because it was in the morning. And then my game 5 was against that Steam Tanks list that we talked about.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a very cool list.
It was
Yeah.
a very cool list. It was actually pretty interesting to go up against because ogres kind of cap at Ren 2, and even then it's kind of rare to get them up to that point. And the Steam Tanks are on a 2+ save.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of sources of +1 to save in his army, so regularly he was like either on a 2+ save or at the very worst a 3+ save.
Wow.
So that was a little bit of a tough game until I managed to just kind of like muscle him off points a lot more.
Oh, I thought you were just gonna I thought you were using your mortal wound charges to kind of.
I was.
How many
Yeah,
wounds are they again?
12.
12. Wow.
Yeah, 12 wounds and a 2-up.
2 up.
The only thing is that they effectively double their damage output, so it relies almost entirely on shooting damage.
Okay.
And then one issue that he had into me was that most of my army, or a lot of my army, so basically like the Gluttons, the 2 units of Gluttons and my Stonehorn are going to be -1 to wound against shooting.
Yep.
And then when I have my Billowing Ash up, I'm also -1 to hit. So he was regularly shooting into -1 to hit, -1 to wound. And sometimes he would even try to go after characters that he was within 12 of.
Yep.
And they would be -2 to hit because the Billowing Ash was up as well, because they're
Okay.
against the battle line and stuff like that. And it was a little rough for him, but I think the biggest thing that probably won me the game is that how he deployed was he put like 3 Steam Tanks and 3 Steam Tanks.
Okay.
And then they were like opposite sides of the board, and I kind of just like shunted like to one side of the board,
Right.
threw the Stonehorn directly into the center of like 3 Steam Tanks. And I
Uh-huh.
think the Stonehorn had like Mystic Shield and all up defense. So like his only choice was to just shoot everything into the Stonehorn his next turn.
Right.
I ended up taking the first turn.
Wow.
And I just like whipped the Stonehorn into those 3 Steam Tanks with Mystic Shield, and basically half of his entire damage output was going directly into the Stonehorn, who was -1 to wound at shooting and like +1,000,000 to his save. So he didn't have a whole lot of chances. And then one other
No.
important thing is that as soon as you damage a Steam Tank, where it gets most of its damage potential for shooting is by like overcharging. So what he'll do is he has to roll 2d6, and if that number is less than the amount of wounds that he's taken, then it takes an additional d3 mortal wounds. But if it's not, then he gains like +1 attack to his 1 attack profile. That's like super big damage and stuff like that. So
That's if you like overcharge it, or is that just something you do all the time?
that's if you overcharge it. But basically, he wants to constantly be overcharging it.
Right.
And he can constantly overcharge it if it's not wounded at all. But what I was doing is I would go like slam into one tank and then put all of my damage into another tank, so that all of them are kind of sitting at like 5 or 6 wounds on them or something like that, so that he was never particularly safe to do that. And then his next turn, he just like shot everything into this stone horn. He wasn't able to score a whole lot of objectives, which was kind of rough for him.
Yeah.
Battle tactics, and that's kind of how I ended up taking the game. I just had too far of a points lead, even though he was kind of like probably close to clearing me off the table.
Wow.
By the end of the game.
And I guess he 3-1 at that point?
He was 3-1 at that point.
Wow.
Because he went against Beasley in the first round.
He won
Went.
against... Oh, went. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like... I thought you said won against Beasley, and I was like, that doesn't make sense. That's... Yeah, no, I think that was a really good strategy of just... You know, and I mean, I don't know... I don't remember their shooting profile, to be honest, but... yeah, just having that giant woolly mammoth tank everything for however long, and then you kind of get control of the rest of the board.
Yeah, it was just about giving him no good targets to shoot at.
Right.
Because obviously the Stonehorn was tying up 3 tanks. And then what I did was I moved the rest of my army towards the rest of his tanks.
Yeah.
But all of them were in the bubble of -1 to hit. And I gave Mystic Shield to Iron Guts, who were inside the bubble. So basically his only choices were to shoot at Noblars, which gives him like basically absolutely nothing, because I don't need a screen against him.
No.
Gluttons, which are going to be -1 to hit and wound, or Iron Guts, who are going to be -1 to hit and +1 to save on a 4-up already. So he was just not having good like target options.
No kidding.
So yeah.
I mean, they do say that one of the best things you can do in wargaming is to give your opponent nothing but bad decisions to make, and then, yeah. Damn.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like hearing these, things. I think we can all kind of learn from them too. But a little while ago, Ludivicus said Wardock is one of the models he'd miss the most, and he doesn't play Oryx if they squat Bone Split as the Wargog Prophet. Yeah, he's awesome. Maybe they'll do be like, yeah, we're sorry guys, we're taking away all the Bone Splitters, but here's the new, Wargog or something like that. And Keith said, I hope 5 objectives becomes a 10+ wounds thing instead of just monster keyword. 5 for objectives. I hope 5 for objectives becomes a 10+.
I think he means...
oh, I see. So it doesn't work on all monsters,
5.
but works on monsters who have 10+ wounds.
No, I think because one of the biggest downsides of that Steam Tanks list is that all of his models are 12 wounds, but they only count as 2 on objectives because they're not monsters.
Got it. Now I see what you're talking about.
Meanwhile, he had 3 tanks on an objective, and then I just plant the Stonehorn there, and it counts 10 because it's a monster and it's ogres. So it's like you just had no chance of contesting it.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's true. I mean, I don't disagree with that, but then there is something to be said for not encouraging people to take skew lists as well. The downside to taking a bunch of Steam Tanks, while cool, fun, thematic, all that jazz, powerful, arguably, is, they don't count on objectives, I guess. But then, you could throw the same thing at monsters and such as well. Black Coach, and it's 16 wounds on the Knight base. It's a 170 millimeter base. Yeah, that thing literally has more ghosts and models on it. It has a hero vampire in a coffin. It's got a hero character driving the thing, and it's got a bunch of ghosts on the back. There's at least, and then it's got the horses. It's got 4 horses. Yeah, that's kind of insane. Catacrosis too. Catacrosis literally has more than 2 guys on his base. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think it would make sense for there to be like a scale where it's right now it's you count as 2 if you're 5 or more wounds, uh, and then that's it. Or if you're a monster, you count as 5.
Unless you
But
have
I think
something
it
on
would
your
make
war
sense. It's like
scroll.
yeah, you get to 10, you count as 5, and then maybe even if you get to 15 or 20, you count as 10. That makes a lot of sense too.
I like all of your suggestions, but you're all wrong. And here's
Oh,
why. What they're going to do, I'm coming across like an asshole. Um, well, I actually just think that they're going to do what they did in Warhammer 40k 10th edition, whereas everyone's just going to have, as part of their war scroll, objective control, and then a number. You know what I mean?
that makes sense.
And it's like that is something in 10th that I think is really cool. It's very tactical, and you can just have it be super thematic. Like Iron Jaws, their job is to be an anvil and to hold an objective. Like, or Seraphon warriors even more so. So maybe like Iron Jaws will be worth 2 each, and Seraphon or the Saurus warriors will be worth 3 because like that's their thing. Like, and they get +1 to their save when they're on their tour. Who knows? Like, but like that's just such an easy way of fixing that problem, I think, and they're kind of playing with that in 40k right now, and it's kind of interesting. Like they have the emissary. He can he has an ability where he can he's like that's his whole deal. Like that's what he's bred for by the hive mind, is to go down and hold objectives. So he gets a 5-up ward, and he's OC 10, which is like really high in 40k 10th apparently. So
Yeah.
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 And some things have OC 0, by the way. Like the what are the little Ripper Swarms? They are OC 0. So that's kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. I think it's an interesting idea, and it allows for far more nuance. The
Right?
only thing I don't like about it is that now your opponent has to memorize every single OC value for all of your units
I
to be like,
guess
wait, how much do
so.
I need to get from that one? Like, and you can ask your opponent, but
Right.
there's a lot of room for like miscalculation and whatnot. So
That's
you
true.
probably need like a little table next to your
That's
board.
true. I think yeah. And then it's like, well, this is how simplified is this game really? Um it's true, like both of the things can be true at the same time, where it's like, well, wouldn't it be great if each model was thematically and consistent with its war scroll and theme integrated into how they control objectives? And then it's like, well, that does add complications to to how you're going to do it. Like another thing you could do too is you could just be like, it's however many wounds you are is your objective control, and then it's like, then you just need one number. But and then you could have like special rules that are outside of that. It's like, infantry or like battle line count as double their OC, or I don't know, like you know for models or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's an idea. Wonder what it would look like if wounds. Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's. I'm sorry if I said that after you typed it. Objective control and battle shock being taken from 40k could be interesting. Yeah, I don't think I don't think I like the battle shock in 10th edition personally. I really like how it works right now, but I've also been playing since first edition AoS, and I'm extremely used to how it works right now. So maybe, I don't know.
I think Battleshock is fine how it is in AOS right now. Yeah.
And I like that they are keeping, like, I do want them to keep the games different to a certain extent as well. And to be honest, like, 40k 10th edition is not the most, like, it's, a lot of people aren't liking it. Like, not to put, I'm not being negative. I just, like, there's a lot of people who are not happy with the changes made. So it's possible that they will take note of that and, KISS it and sort of keep things relatively the same. SOB has that when they take more wounds, they count as less. Yeah, that would be cool too. Actually, that's another thing too. Like, and it kind of makes sense, right? Yeah, Josh makes a great point. Welcome to the stream, Josh. Rob, are you trying to tell me people have to care about taking Battle Shock in your meta? Yes, I am. I mean, I like that they've added more and more monsters, by the way, that turn off the what's it called again? I always forget the name of it, where you pay a command point and Inspiring Presence. I don't know why. It's always been called that. I cannot remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Auto pass Battle Shock is just more clear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It would be cool to get something like that. But overall, this is the first time ever that I'm not like, I'm looking forward to AoS 4, but previously I was like, okay, get me out of this edition. I don't feel like that at all. Like, AoS is by far my favorite game that I'm playing. It's maybe my favorite game they've ever made. And, I almost don't want the new edition, if not for the fact that I'm copiumed to the gills on Skaven getting a re-release.
Yeah, I remember when we had Dan Schwind on the podcast a while ago, and we were talking about the new GHB, and I said basically that I'm kind of afraid that the new GHB is going to mess things up because I think things are kind of the best they've ever been at that time.
Right.
And they somehow, I think, made it better.
They did.
In fact.
I agree. Yeah.
So I'm starting to kind of calm down.
You're starting to believe?
I'm starting to believe. I'm starting to be like, you know what, GW? I'm excited to see what you got next. I have faith that, like, even if something crazy does get released, they'll FAQ it well, and then the next, like, GHB or the next edition is going to be nothing super huge, because I think that they realize that they have something that's actually quite balanced here, and that they're actually achieving, like, a good competitive balanced game.
I agree with that. I've only played one game of 10th, so I probably shouldn't even talk about it, but I'm a little concerned that they're going to be like change for change's sake and then F it up.
I'm a little concerned too, but competitive crowd for AoS and the competitive crowd for 40k are two wildly different beasts.
Absolutely.
And it seems like GW kind of understands the AoS crowd a little bit better, or maybe it's that the AoS crowd is better at communicating like real problems. Whereas, like, I know that there's a little bit of a problem in 40k of like the squeaky wheel gets the grease and like just really loud / like toxic behavior in some senses.
Yep.
Which, granted, I'm sure happens in AoS, but it seems like more of like a dad game. Like, really.
I think all of those, everything you just said is true. Like, and there definitely is an instance of the squeaky wheel getting the grease in AoS too. Like, and I won't like name names or like factions necessarily, because I think it's neither here nor there, but I mean, I think we've seen it a few times now. But I might argue, you know what? I think it's not as bad though, like Tyranids in 9th edition 40k, they got 6 consecutive nerfs. So like, A, they were way off when they released that book, but B, then they went way overboard, and like nothing should ever take 6 nerfs. Like, no matter what. You know what I mean? Like,
that kind of happened for AoS as well, though. Like, Stormcast have just been getting nerf after nerf. Cruel Boys, nerf after nerf. I have Cruel Boys that, or sorry, not nerf, sorry.
Okay.
Like points going down.
Points buffs, yeah, or
there's
whatever.
There's a race to the bottom happening for sure. So like, clearly it can happen. Like,
but what I mean though is like Tyranids came out, they were too strong, and then they increased their points, changed their rules to make them worse, and then they did that 6 times in a row. Like,
yeah,
that's crazy. That should never happen. Like, that means you effed up so badly at the beginning, and now people are just complaining. And the problem is too, is that GW remains behind what the actual meta is doing. So they're reacting to old information. You know what I mean? So very different to how you feel after being played it and some time has passed. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. No pushed into the battle for Bell and dropped by like 150 points. I don't think it's oh no, it was like 100 points, I think. Because I think it was 320 when it came out, which if you think about it now, that's insane. I think it went down to 220. So 100 points though. God dang. Man, did they ever drop? But the thing was, too, is like the Screaming Bell was like, this is what I hate when they do is like the Screaming Bell wasn't that strong in second edition, right? It was being taken though, because it's like one of the most iconic Skaven things ever made. It's one of the most unique units they've literally ever made. Like a giant bell tower being on wheels. Like that's such a crazy idea. You wouldn't think it would work thematically, aesthetically, anything. And it's always been around for Skaven. It's always been a popular idea and like almost like central like figure or you know, like something like a silhouette that you see on the battle. And so I think they were like, oh, look how much it was being taken in AoS 2. We need to nerf it, and we need to like, you know, rotate things and make it so that it's the other thing being taken now. And yeah, that was bad. Was it 325? I thought it was 320. Regardless, yeah, it's down 100 points. That's insane.
Yeah, Alexander Frias brings up a good point too, which is that they wrote half the rules out of lockdown, and then they adjusted how they tested in lockdown. Whereas AOS 3 was written entirely from a new approach they took to testing at writing books. Like, and another thing is too is these new GHBs are happening after lockdown has kind of stopped, right? Like tournaments are coming back up. There's much more data for them to deal with.
But I don't fully understand that comment. It's very interesting. Half the rules for what in out of lockdown? Do you mean for 10th edition? Because we've been out of lockdown for over 2 years now, right?
That's true. But 10th edition came out this summer. Right?
It came out this summer. So
yeah. Oh, Tyranids.
Oh, Tyranids were totally, they came out. That's true. That's true. But like, yeah, it was just like, I don't know, like 6 nerfs. I see what you're saying, but like they ended up like, I don't know, like it's kind of like, I didn't want to bring up AOS factions, but it's kind of like Gits, where it's like they nerfed them, then they nerfed them again. And then I actually think that the second nerf was more than enough. And then they went to a third nerf just from the squeaky wheels. And I think they went too far. Like, and now they're already in like they're in the sub 50% win rate, which just like, that's kind of a crazy turnaround. You know, and like the problem too is like when they nerf stuff, right? And then it's not like they don't almost never go back and they're like, hey guys, sorry, we went way too far. Like we're going to readjust it. It's like if something is overpowered, then they usually nerf it. And then it just stays trash forever. And I really don't like that when that's the case. And like, I guess Maggot Kin are like finally pulling up out of that. Like, and they weren't that strong. Like when Maggot King came out, I'm on all the Facebook groups and people were just complaining about it and just saying how bad the book was. And I remember this one post. It was like around when Matthias won the US Open with Maggot Kin, with the Glock King at like 700 and some odd points. And then someone said, hey guys, like I'm looking at this book and I think there might be some juice here. I think it might not be as bad as we all are saying it is. And I was just going like, this is so crazy. And then it was staying consistently on the upper echelons. You know what I mean? I hope they nerf OBR at least 3 more times. Oh, I love you, Kiki. OBR are one of those factions. You know what? You know what's crazy? Okay, so OBR are cool. Like, I think most people agree that they're cool, right? I think they're actually the faction I dislike the most. But it's like this. It's like, so I was like stung by wasps at a very young age, like a bunch of times. And now like there's something instinctually where I just like, around wasps. I feel the same way around OBR. When they first came out, they were so completely ridiculous for so long. And so I don't disagree with you. They have such cool lore. Yep. And OBR models look cool. Everyone's saying completely true things, but I agree with Kiki. I hate playing against them. They're the wasps of AOS. Yeah. They just put that on their battle tome. Aussie Arc Bone Reapers. The wasps of AOS.
Yeah, every time I get matched up against OBR in a tournament, it's just like it's not going to be a fun game.
It's
But
not going to be a fun game,
yeah,
dude.
it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's
exactly.
just like the feeling that I get when I play against OBR is like they're the kid that gets to play with everybody else's toys.
Yeah,
And I'm just like, why do you get to have everything? Like
it's
you
what
get
it
to
feels
have
like.
all of these different. You have to pick and choose all of the different armies, like fun things that they have. And like, yeah, I'm gonna have some impact mortals. I'm gonna have crazy recursion, and I'm gonna have amazing saves. I'm gonna do lots of damage and tons of rent. It's like, just pick one.
A,
Come on, like
a
I know that.
ward, a command
Yeah,
ability, a
you know,
ward, a
it's
5-up
like why
ward,
do you get
like
to have everything? Like,
amazing endless spells. Like it's just like it goes on and on. It's so true. I almost missed Alexander's comment. I imagine books that get released prior to summer or in summer get data more rapid because people are out traveling to events more. Gets definitely fell victim. That's a fascinating theory. I've never heard anyone say that before. Like I think you're right. Actually, and maybe that explains the quick turnaround on Seraphon. Because they were just like, yeah, we effed up. These things are not nearly as powerful as, we kind of thought. And there was definitely like, because Seraphon were so good in AoS 2 for so long that they were trying to make sure that they weren't too good. Although, whatever. Yeah, anyway, that's another thing.
so I wonder if we're gonna see Cities of Sigmar and FEC kind of fall subject to that as well.
Yeah. And what do you think, like, remain too powerful for too long?
Yeah, just like over the winter, um, just because it really slows down come like late November, December, and then of course LVO is going to happen in January. But even after that, like you're not really seeing a lot of tournaments other than LVO in the winter that are
Right.
like big representations of the meta.
That's true.
So
Yeah, I mean, it'll kind of depend on how they felt FEC were, whether they were too good or too weak when they were designing the book, and then we'll kind of see what comes out, right? Um, I like he says OBR tax collectors in the fluff. As a working adult, it is okay to dislike tax collectors. I think like tax collectors are like the most reviled profession throughout history. Like you can see that in like really old books like the Bible. They're like, yeah, like Jesus hang out with tax collectors. like what? You know what I mean? What a good guy. With tax collectors. I don't care why they went too far with Gits. I care that they do like Walmart and show me the rollbacks. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you don't care why. Yeah, that's a fair point. I mean, I do think it's like a good idea though to try and analyze and figure out why, and then we can maybe prevent it in the future. Like, I kind of went into Seraphon, like, because I love the aesthetics of the army so much. They're definitely, second or third favorite army, depending on how much seafood I've been eating. And, the I was going into it and I was going like, I think they're gonna, and they did exactly what I was worried about. A lot of Rend 1, hitting on 4s and that kind of deal. And I was just going like, guys, like, I get that, but like they took out a bunch of war scrolls and like they did all these other things that were making it, okay, like perfectly fine, you know? Um, but, yeah, but like ultimately that's why you don't want to have an OBR, Soulblight, Gloomspite Gets book on release, something that's clearly powerful. Cause then it's obvious and also the easier it is to play, the worse it is for you usually, because like, if everyone's winning with it, the stats go through the roof, and then and then you just end up getting nerfed into the ground. I agree with Ludivicus though. We need rollbacks. I think that's a great expression. Do like Walmart. Look at the Incarnate and how long it took them to adjust it. It spent all last winter as king. That was crazy. That's true. That's a good point though about your theory. You're super excited for the cities update, seeing all the cool new models. The power level of the book killed your buzz. Baseline humans of the setting should be fighting uphill. Yeah, you're not wrong. Like I don't want people to be struggling. Like because there's always going to be, no matter what army it is, it's going to catch someone's eye. It's going to be their first army when they come into the game. So I want it to be viable, but yeah, like the verisimilitude between like the models and the fluff, of how they're just like fighting this desperate frontier war, doesn't really match, this overpowered, insane gun line sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like what they did with the orders system, where it's just like
That's cool.
that's how the humans are kind of like getting through it, because they're like, I have like these secret trap cards that I'm doing all this stuff, and so like a really smart player would be able to make use of that. But then they just did stuff that was just like brute force, like horribly powerful, just like really good war scrolls basically, and you're like, okay, that doesn't seem human anymore. That seems like
Yeah.
insane, like magic, like deity levels of stuff at a certain point. But
Yeah. You're not wrong. And like, it doesn't even have counterplay. Like your orders are just a thing you do. Other than
no,
killing.
I think the orders are actually okay. I think
No. I agree, but like, you can get them to deity levels with orders, and that like, there's no. It's not like it's a spell. It's like, okay, well, I've got anti-magic spell casting or something like that, or I've got like a thing where I just roll a dice against magic. They just do that thing, and I'm just saying you can't counterplay the orders. I love the orders. I think they're perfect. But like, when you combine them with a really strong war scroll, like you were saying, I was basically agreeing with what you were saying. Kiki says you want to play ogres, and that'll make Carson happy.
it's funny how many times like I'll play a game with someone at a tournament.
Yeah.
And they're like, you know what? I have ogres. I'm thinking about picking them up. I'm like, do it. Join me. Like, join the ogres. Like, we could be strong together.
Hell yeah.
And then like, I know Roman was talking about potentially even just running my list at a tournament, and I was like, yes, everyone should run my list. Like, we shall, all of us just show up to the tournament with one list. That'd be fantastic. Like, I don't know why I'm so excited by like more people playing ogres, even though it's an already really popular army, but it's just I think it's just a really honest, like fun army.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel the same way about Skaven. When I originally got back into Warhammer, I asked the manager of the store I went into, I was like, are Skaven still a thing? And he's like, of course they're still a thing. Like, what are you talking about? And I was like, are they popular? And he's like, yeah, they're actually surprisingly popular. And I was at first I was like, oh, like I wanted to be a special snowflake. But the more I go along, the more I'm like, no, join me in this brotherhood of awesomeness that is Skaven. Like, I genuinely think they are maybe the funnest army to play in the game. The only thing I could see against them is they tend to have a high model count, so moving that around is not always the funnest thing. But
Where's your back?
yeah, but like, if you like pulling on a slot machine, and who doesn't like pulling on a slot machine, Skaven are the army for you, man. Yeah. Go big or go
Maybe I
home.
should start playing Skaven.
What's that?
So maybe I should start playing
You
Skaven.
literally should. I've been trying to talk you into this before you started playing ogres. When you were working at your old company and you painted up that the catapult, and I was like, yes, it's time. Join me, brother. And you're like, oh, I'm just painting this one model. I was like, oh, what? Yeah, you should.
Yeah, I still have it actually.
Do you?
Yeah.
Carson.
It's a terrible model though. Or, sorry, it's a terrible war scroll, the catapult.
It's maybe okay now. Wait, just wait for it, okay? You ready? Okay. I don't even have one built. I've got a bunch of new on sprue that I'm going to make into probably at some point. I was originally going to use them for fantasy and just have more warp lightning cannons, but on square bases. But the let's find it. Catapult. Whoops. Plague Claw. I have to put in the proper name. I think it might be okay now. Where is it? Plague Claw. Why isn't it called Plague Claw Catapult? Okay, so wait for it, okay? Six wounds, right? You're like, not great. And that's true. 5-up save. Also kind of weird. Moves 3 inches. You're like, this keeps getting worse and worse. The Warp Lightning Cannon has a 4-up save, and it has 8 wounds, okay? But 1 attack, you're like, ugh, right? But it's got a 30-inch range. A 6 to 30-inch range. So if it's in combat, it doesn't get to shoot, right? But it's got 1 attack, 3s and 2s, -2 rend, d6 damage. And if you're attacking a unit of 10 or more models, add 1 to hit rolls, so then it becomes 2s and 2s, -2, and 2d6 damage. Okay? Also, add 2 to battle shock rolls for units targeted by add 2 to battle shock rolls for units targeted by a friendly unit with this ability during that turn. So you can't stack it and hit something multiple times, but anytime that something is targeted by it, you add 2 to battle shock rolls. And then all of that for 100 points. No, okay. I made my case.
Thanks. Oh, thanks.
Well, and don't forget, it can be targeted by, because it is a Pestilence unit, you can target it by Pestilent Prayers. So I don't remember if there was anything you could do with that, to be honest. Pestilence are like the faction that I have the least of. But I think it's interesting. It's finally moving into a zone where it's like arguably okay. If you're facing against a bunch of models though, like you have 3 of those things, you know what I mean? Like against like a horde unit, 2d6 damage, 2s and 2s, -2. The one shot is like the worst part though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
Yeah, that's why I don't like the spawn of Chotek, or the new salamander.
Yeah, I think it should be d6 attacks,
Right.
or 2d6 attacks, 1 damage instead.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool. That's
Because then
interesting.
it's like,
Yeah, that's true. It's more consistent. It's like a splat. Yeah, that would be more thematic too. Or even like, it should be like, I would actually say like, I don't like D6 almost anything. So I would like to see like 2d3 attacks on its regular profile, and then when you're attacking like a unit of 10 or more models or whatever the case may be, then it goes to 4d3 attacks. Yeah. And even then it's probably only worth like 100 points if we're being honest. Yeah. Like the Flinger is so much better in Spiderfang, and you never see that bloody model. They should just something like a monstrous action that allows you to interact a tiny bit with orders. That'd be cool. Wait for 4th in case they get cool new models. That's not a bad point. There are some models that I don't think we'll see new ones of. Like, I think we probably will see new Clan Rat models, even though they don't need it. Like those models are awesome. Like they're practically perfect, Mary Poppins style. It's faction pride. As long as people ain't just chasing the meta, it's always good to have more people join your team. Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I like that. More slot machine than Wargog. I mean, it's a different kind of slot machine. Like, everything in the army is a slot machine of one kind or another. The Warp Lightning Cannon, like, you could blow yourself up and do no wounds, or you can do just 12 flat mortal wounds. Like, and everything in between. You could also blow yourself up and do 12 mortal wounds.
yeah, I remember in a practice game with Matthias, he shot the Stonehorn with a Warp Lightning Cannon. I think he rolled a 5 on its power value, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not going to be too bad. And then he proceeds to do like 9 mortal wounds with it. I'm like, oh, oh god, it could still hurt. It could still hurt so bad.
It's so true. Yeah. In that last game too, who was I playing against? I can't remember right now. Was it Danny? I can't remember. No, it was Roman. And I wasn't rolling well with my cannons, but I was still just consistently just planking off enough damage. Be good if you couldn't just ignore battle shock because you don't even need to hit. Yeah, it's true. If like if any freaking model in the game should have, you can't do inspiring presence near it, it should be the Hell Pit. Like, that thing has always been like the most horrifying thing, you know, to encounter in all of Warhammer. But I mean, Carnosaurs are horrifying too, I suppose. It would be good if you could. Oh yeah, sorry. Or D3+3. Yeah, totally. At all of the above. It was sad to see one rat player at Sparkle. Oh, to only see I could every time I can't see because of that stupid icon.
Alexander, I have a question for you.
Yes.
When a bunch of us were at the sloop, were you the guy that was sitting at the bar that was like kind of close to us? Because I remember that guy was also playing Corn, and I'm looking at the Sparkle Party list, and you, it looks like you were playing Corn as well. Um, and if so, if it was you, hi,
Yeah, the corn guy.
hello,
Corn for the
nice.
barbecue. Butter
It's
for
good to meet
the
you in person.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. That's really awesome. You did we talk about your list? We could go over it real quick if you're into that. If not, don't worry about it. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm quite interested in what the corn players are taking because
Yeah,
that
it looks like
that book
mostly
is so deep.
Bloodlords and Reapers of Vengeance. Um,
For Alexander,
no, just in general.
right, right. That the Reapers are the Bloodletter one.
Yeah, the Reapers are the Bloodletter one, which makes it so that they do mortal wounds on 5s as well as 6s
Right.
to hit.
If they charge.
Only on the charge. And
Oh.
then,
Wow.
yeah, and then Bloodlords is whenever a hero dies, it counts as 2 blood tithe instead of 1.
Dang. And that's both teams, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that the corn book is deep enough and there's enough there that people are what do you call it? Like there's even if they're taking the same faction, there seems to be a decent variety in the actual lists.
Yeah.
I played Reapers with skull cannons. Oh, we might have
interesting.
talked about it.
I don't think we only covered like 5 or 6 lists.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 6 lists because I think we did 2 each. But yeah, maybe not. Scarbrand, love that. Scarbrand is freaking awesome. Bloodthirster, Unfettered Fury, Wrath of Corn. The Wrath of Corn one is that the Boomthirster? Or is that the other guy, the third one? I don't know. I can't remember. Slaughter Priest, Blood Master, and then Blood Reavers, Flesh Hounds, Skull Cannon, Bleeding Icon, Wrath Axe. Wow. See, that's so different right there. Andy played a triple Bloodthirster list, well, kind of, or similar to this with Scarbrand, I guess, in that last battle report. Reapers are the ones. You just told me this, but that's the one with the hero, or is that the one with the bloodletters?
Oh, Reapers of Vengeance is the. Hold on.
Because there's no bloodletters in this list, but there's something I'm not. I believe Carson got the 2 backwards, but the rules. Oh,
yeah,
okay, okay.
My bad. That's
Okay.
completely my bad. I didn't get it backwards. Yep.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's an interesting choice.
That's why I was confused when I saw Matthias's list. And I was like, Bloodlords? I swear he was doing mortals on
Right.
5s. What's going on? Yeah.
That makes sense. +1 to hit all
Yeah,
characters.
that's my bad.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and with ranged attacks, +1 to hit characters would be pretty good too. If you're shooting at something that's like big,
Right.
which there tends to be like a big character of some kind in a lot of destruction armies, or sometimes other armies do, or even other corn armies, like targeting a bloodthirster would give you the +1. So
Yeah. No, that's I just like this doesn't have a lot of models in it, so it just seems like a lot of fun to play as well. Just romping around with 3 smashy boys and rack up the blood tithe.
Skull Cannon's also not a bad profile.
I
like it.
wanted to look that up right when.
So it's a 8-inch move,
Okay.
18-inch range, so effectively 24-inch threat range.
Yep.
4 attacks,
Okay.
3s, -2 D3 damage.
Damn.
So yeah, it's
For
not bad at all.
140 points.
Yeah.
God dang. 8 and sorry, how many wounds?
8 wounds on a 4-up save.
Jeez. 8 wounds, 4-up save, 8-inch move.
Yeah. Certainly not bad. Yeah.
Damn. That's really good. And it's the same amount of points as a warp lightning cannon. Huh. I
D3 is kind of iffy, just because it's like theoretically that could be one, right?
That's true, but the -2 rend is tasty.
Pretty
I
good.
mean, like you compare that to the spawn of Chotek. Now they're 20 points more, right? Both 8 wounds, both a 4-up save. Spawn of Chotek is 5-inch move, and it's 1 attack, 4s and 2s, -2 rend, D6 damage. So that could also be 1 damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ladivicus asks, was Ricky Fisher on Squigs or Trogs? By the way, curious now. He was on Trogs.
Trogs, yeah.
Trogs always.
Always Trogs. Yeah, he is the Trog master. I'm wondering if he's going to run Trug, by the way.
I think he's definitely going to try it.
He's going to try it?
Once.
Yeah. Like in his thing, or in like another, in his Army of Renown, or in...
I don't know. I'm not sure. I know he was excited by it.
It's an awesome model, you know. I'm tempted by that box, but I just, you know, I have too many other things to paint. I'm working on sharks, a Skaven Warbringer, and more dinosaurs. I just finished my Scarvet on Agrodon and my Starseer, last night, and I need to re-rim the bases because I did the water effects, and I always use Scotch tape, and it always pulls off some of the paint. But
yeah, Alex brings up a good point about the Skull Cannon too. There's a special ability they have where it's in the combat phase. After this unit has fought for the first time in that phase, if any enemy models were slain by this unit's attacks in that phase, this unit can immediately shoot. So basically, like,
what?
Shoots, charges, fights, and if it kills something, shoots in combat again. So that's pretty good. And it's actually fairly likely to kill something if you're going into one.
Sorry, what's its melee profile?
So the melee profile, it has 2 weapons.
Okay.
Number 1 is the Hellblades, which are 2-inch range, 4 attacks, 3s, -1, 1 damage. However, if the unmodified hit roll is a 6, it causes 1 mortal wound and the attack sequence ends. And then it has another attack, which is 1 attack, 4s, 3s, -1 D3 damage. So not super reliable, but you know.
But like,
you're going to get a damage or 2 through on a chaff unit for sure.
And it's any of its melee attacks, like kill something.
Just kill 1 model.
It's kill 1 model, or does it cause a wound?
If any enemy models were slain, so you got to be careful about what you put it into. But
like throw it into like some clan rats or whatever, like some kind of random thing, you'll probably kill it.
Yeah, you do have to shoot the unit.
Okay.
Combat with, of course, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting horde clearer for sure.
Yeah, because like even if you like chuck it into squigs or hoppers or Mortrick guard, even like shoot, you'll probably I mean, it's, I guess not Mortrick guard, less so, but like shoot, man. Zombies is an excellent one. Yeah, you'll almost certainly kill them with their dash save, right? So they ate ghouls alive. Oh man, yeah, another thing that's just perfect. You kill, that's so good. One guy would kill 10 to 15 chaff a turn, and you turn off inspiring with the icon, so murder hordes. Oh, damn, that's a sick list, man. What a cool list.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. What were you usually spending Blood Tithe on? If you don't mind me asking, Alexander.
I mean, Murder Lust for one, and then I guess Summoning?
Yeah, because you can summon more blood cannons.
Yeah, right?
I think they cost the same as a unit of 10 bloodletters, I think.
Okay, here, where is... I just want to... I know this is like neither here nor there for a lot of people. Wow, they're sold out. But yeah, this is neither here nor there for a lot of people, but it's a cool model. Like, I'm not even into corn, and that model's dope. But yeah. Oh, he said you would fight in the hero phase. Oh, with one thirster that would be stuck in combat, and then stack armor saves and best day ever on the other to something survive the counterattacks. That checks out. Seems pretty good. Okay, you know. Yeah, the skull cannon was always like one of the cooler looking models to me too. Mouth as a laugh as it drives around. Yeah. Oh, so kind of like that.
You can hear it from like across the battlefield.
Like, oh God, it's getting closer. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, by the way, someone said earlier about Artemis. If anyone knows about Artemis, like, I would love to know more. Someone said it earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt something that was going on. But I don't know what Artemis does, and I'm curious. And he's a cool model, and I guess he was an Underworld's warband, but I don't think they sell him anymore. So, yeah.
Oh, Vortimus?
Vortimus, that's what it was. Yeah, I keep calling him
I
Artemis.
was like, Artemis.
Yeah.
Great god? Goddess?
Yeah. Him too. He's pretty dope. Oh man. Well, that was a fun chat, man. Like, this actually went way longer than we were kind of thinking, but it was super fun.
It's kind of nice to just have a, talking about random stuff night.
I agree. That's what I wanted to end. I wanted to end on that picture right there. This thing is so funny. Let me know if you guys get this thing. Let me know how it turns out. I'm super curious. But yeah, thanks as always for joining me, Carson. It was a blast. Thanks to everyone for watching. At ease. Yeah, thanks for everyone for joining us in the chat. We had a lot of really funny comments as usual. I appreciate you guys. And if you're watching this in the future and you got this far, why not give it a like and a subscribe? I appreciate you, and I will love you for at least 5 minutes. Anything else you wanted to say before we go? You head out, Carson?
Nope.
Cool.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.